right, it's a bright morning and of course, welcome to the AM News here on the AM Show. My name is Pakwisi Shandov. To our very first story, 6 out of 165 prisoners on death row are women. These people live in perpetual anguish that any day could be their last. Some prisoners on death row now suffer mental illness. Amnesty International is calling on Ghana to join other countries that have abolished the death penalty. Tasha Michelle witnessed the launch of the 2021 Amnesty International Death Penalty Report and now files this one.
According to Ghana prisons, 165 people are currently on death row. They are all convicted of murder. Although Ghana has not executed any inmate on death row since 1993, inmates still live in perpetual fear. At the launch of the Amnesty International Ghana 2021 Death Penalty Report, the campaign and coordinations coordinator, Belinda Adiki Asemenya, called for the abolishment of the death penalty altogether.
165 were under death sentence at the end of the year 2021. All 6 of them were women and the remaining 6 were foreigners, 2 from Burkina Faso and 6 from Nigeria. There were no commutations or pardon. Amnesty International understands that all 165 were convicted of murder, which remains punishable by a mandatory death sentence in Ghana. Amnesty International opposes the death penalty in all cases without exception, regardless of the nature or circumstances of the crime.
Speaking at the launch, ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Francis Xavier Sosu, revealed that a private member's bill that was proposed by him in Parliament will provide for the abolition of the death penalty.
What we seek to do is to amend the Criminal and Other Offences Act and the Armed Forces Act. At the last stakeholders meeting, the representative of the Armed Forces of Ghana said that they had the permission of the CDA, the head of the Armed Forces, to support 100% the abolition of death penalty. By the end of this week, in Parliament, we are gazetting these 2 laws. And after 14 days of the gazette, Parliament is going to officially introduce these 2 new laws for the purposes of achieving the 90% of the abolition.
Chief Superintendent of the Ghana Prisons Service, Charles Clerk, explained the reason for the abolishment of the death penalty by the Constitutional Review Commission.
In December 2011, the Constitutional Review Commission published a report in which it recommended that the death penalty be abolished in the new constitution and replaced with life without parole. Among the reasons it cited for its recommendations were the irreversible consequences of executing wrongfully convicted individuals, the failure of the death penalty as a deterrent, the barbaric nature of punishment, the fact that execution do not necessarily provide closure to victims' family.
Amnesty International maintains that the death penalty is not justice. Tasha Michelle's reports for JoyNews.
Now, Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Osafo-Maafo says that he is worried that for the first time Ghana has become a target for terrorist activities. He also cited the sub-region as an epicenter following recent attacks on neighboring countries. He said Ghana's abundant mineral resources within the sub-region puts it at risk of a possible attack, a reason for a concerted effort to arrest the situation. Samuel Mbura has details in this report.
The proliferation of firearms in the country has been classified as a high national security threat, and one of the reasons there is a call for action, especially when neighboring countries have been attacked by terrorists. The Ministry of National Security launched a citizen awareness campaign dubbed the See Something, Say Something campaign. This campaign aims to make citizens highly alert and report suspicious characters in the wake of terrorist alert signals by security analysts. Senior Presidential Advisor Yao Osafo-Mafu at the launch called for active citizenship participation in volunteering information to the security.
Considering Ghana's abundant gold resources and the access it has to the Gulf of Guinea, clearly indicates that our country remains a prime target for the terrorist groups. The fact that we have not been attacked yet not imply that we are eternally immune from a terrorist attack. Certainly not. Deliberate actions and conscious efforts, not only by our state security and intelligence agencies, but also all Ghanaians and persons within the country's jurisdiction are required to keep the terrorists away.
He said the government will continuously retool the security services to make them proactive.
Government continues to support the Ministries of National Security, Defense and Interior, and other relevant state authorities in myriad ways to implement measures towards safeguarding the state against terrorism and violent extremism.
The National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, said the fight against terrorism should be seen as a national duty, devoid of partisan politics.
The See Something, Say Something campaign, therefore, is a critical preventative measure by the Ministry of National Security and the other security ministries to, first of all, empower Ghanaians to be more conscious about their own security, and secondly, to enhance their relationship with state security authorities.
Minister for Information, effort will be made to crack down on misinformation, which creates unnecessary fear and panic.
There are laws in this country that deal with the publication of false news with the intent of causing panic and fear. Those laws are still on our statute books, and especially at this time when we're trying to get credible information out, we will not hesitate to use those laws if persons are found culpable of deliberately misinforming the public with the objective of causing panic and fear. We need to get that out of the window so that people can hear and see what the facts are, particularly on the subject of terrorism, and how they can respond and participate in this anti-terrorism program.
Ranking member of Parliament Select Committee on Defense and Interior, James Agaga, says he will support the government to protect the country's territorial borders and citizens because security is a national concern.
But first of all, it's important to underscore the point that we have never politicized issues of terrorism, starting from the time the framework for countering terrorism and violent extremism was launched. I mean, we were very supportive. You saw us here in our numbers when the security strategy was launched. Today, we are here once again to lend our support to the launching of this wonderful initiative to create awareness about how existential the issues of terrorism and violent extremism are. And so we believe that it's a matter for our collective effort and action, which is why we are here in our numbers. And so far from being political, we think that the right measures must be put in place to deal with the threat.
If you see any suspicious character at public places, please prompt authorities by calling on 999. Samuel Mbura reporting for Joy News.
Let's turn our attention to the Ashanti region, where scientists at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology wants the Food and Drugs Authority to intensify surveillance on ginger powder sold on the markets. The call is in response to a study contained in the journal Helion, which found out that all the Ghana-made ginger powder failed labeling standards. Only one of the 3 Ghana-made products was registered with the FDA. More in this report.
Sometimes I because on says sometimes you begin I say on number do. Your mommy used to ginger and say sometimes Sebia Minya Koda. It means ginger. And mommy
Zengeba officinale, all ginger, has been used extensively in traditional medicine for the treatment of conditions like nausea and cough. Recently, scientists discovered a certain substance in ginger known as gingerol, a powerful antioxidant. So for those of you who want to prevent illnesses, perhaps ginger comes in handy. Ginger is indispensable in our homes, especially in cuisine. Its usage increased during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic as many perceive it to possess anti-COVID-19 activity, especially in reducing lung inflammation.
Ginger is a known anti-inflammatory agent. And so traditionally, a lot of people were drinking ginger teas. Some were using it fresh, but for convenience. I mean, people went on the powdered product. So there was, demand for the product. And so as a curious scientist, I decided that with these powders on the market, ginger powders on the market, let's see if they have some excellent quality attributes. And more importantly, we wanted to know if it is the correct species they are packaging. You know, ginger has another species that is grown as an ornamental, and what we call flowers, ginger flowers, and doesn't have the pungency and quality attributes of the original ginger. So we wanted to look at quality. Again, we wanted to look at the source of the ginger they are using.
This study sought to find out the quality of powdered ginger products on the Ghanaian market. The samples were taken from 3 major markets in Ghana, and this consisted of 3 local and 4 foreign ginger powders.
Fortunately, I think it is good news for all of us. We didn't find any toxic metals in there. The levels were all within permissible levels. Again, with the microbial load, pathogenic microorganisms, which according to standards should not be in there, were not there. However, the total aerobic count, which indicates some level of contamination, but not with pathogenic microbes, were in there. For about 7 products that we analyzed, 5 of them had levels of aerobic count that was higher than the recommended values. And all 3 Ghanaian products that were in there had higher levels than the recommended values. So these are some of the main findings. The next one is the fact that our Ghanaian products or local products, only one was registered with the FDA with evidence of the FDA number embossed on the label. One was completely without a label, and both 2 products did not even have manufacturer's information.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
A Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, George Mrekuduka, is asking Guineans to help identify and arrest people engaged in illegal mining. He made this call after inspecting parcels of land destroyed by activities of illegal miners in the Amnesty East municipality. They said illegal miners had abandoned the site at the time of the minister's visit. Correspondent Natalia Kwanza has more in the following report.
Skies are camera captures scores of abandoned pits dotted around river bodies with possible presence of mercury in some of them. The Tano River, which was in time past the pride of the people of Amnesty East and other area, now lies brownish, heavily polluted with pits surrounding its course. The river no longer quenches the thirst of the people whose livelihood depend on its flow. Many say it has passed the scientific definition of water as any liquid that is colorless, odorless, and tasteless.
What you have said, Ghana? And who blame me about buying a said Ghana? Should I have done a deal? And yet, my youth. Sanyan saying you know, would you not have a in so crowd by our bedroom, and then I'll buy a few more. I will not eat too far, I know I said to you. This is all question to the bed. It's to buy a young guy. If you get pay, You funu, you mean that Achima. Siena no buy no movie and can crowd betul. Ama yemba metu. Mati. Once some shovel. So betu ahwia kra wo license, wo permit as a way to.
The residents of the area are on a warpath with illegal miners whose activities are causing serious environmental and social issues in the municipality, threatening lives and property. The Deputy Minister in charge of mines, George Mreku Duka, and his Operation Halt team trip were with the hope of arrest some of the illegal miners possibly in the act, but as always, they had abandoned their sites and not a single one of the illegal miners was arrested. Their makeshift homes, champans, and other equipment used in their nefarious activities were destroyed by the team.
Interestingly, we came and the moment they saw the military, some ran away, they bolted. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anybody arrested, but obviously their mining equipment have been duly destroyed, and I'm happy the method the military is using now. We need to get out of the river bodies. Let's protect our river bodies together. We must resolve as Ghanaians to protect our river bodies. We are not saying don't mine, but mine responsibly. If you come and they give you, kind of permit, you will be allowed to mine. I mean, you cannot also mine where we're having a river body diverted. Here you could see some tributaries have been diverted.
But luck, however, eluded some 26 persons who were winning sand and cutting down trees in the area. They were arrested from various hideouts. The question many are grappling is whether the country can ever find a way to fight galamsey and other activities threatening our environment and very existing.
Ensure that people don't mine in their river bodies. Unfortunately, we saw people mining yourselves, and very unfortunate. And some people were also caught winning sand. The reason being that they are using it for other purposes. Obviously, they were not having any document, but because they were not mining and also winning sand just at the bank, not at the bank of the river, but elsewhere, we had to let them put the sand back because we'll be using that for the reclamation assignment. So we need not to win any spent ore out of the jurisdiction of the mining.
From the Amenfi East municipality, the team moved to Asenkrigwa and its adjoining communities where similar issues were recorded regarding the destruction of vast land due to illegal mining. For Joy News, in Athalia, Kwanza, Western Region.
Now, the Upper West Regional Chairman of the governing New Patriotic Party, SB Kangbere, says he's seeking a second term because he's yet to fulfill his promises. The 74-year-old retired Saudi Arabian University English lecturer and won the Upper West Regional Chairmanship of the NPP 4 years ago with a plethora of promises. His position, however, is being challenged by Aladi Toyina Mahama, who is hoping to be a third-time lucky. Here is Rafiq Salam's report.
4 years ago, then a polka rookie at a programmel at Jiriba Hills Hotel codenamed the Kangbere Polka Summit to declare his intention of taking over from then outgoing chairman of the party, Alhaji Abubakar Abdurrahman Short. SB Kangbere mesmerized and dazzled the New Patriotic Party delegates with sea of promises intended to better their lives and political fortunes of the party. It is almost 4 years in the saddle, and the heavyweight chairman, as he is affectionately called by his admirers, conceded that he is beaten more than he could chew and has failed to deliver some of his flagship promises and wants another bite of the pie.
Promises were made. Unfortunately, we couldn't carry out all the promises. I remember when I was coming, I said I was going to stop this cheating in the school feeding program, for example, where some people have 2 each, 3 each, 4 each, and some others have 0. I promised that I was going to try to reverse that. You have had a contract for 2 years, let somebody also come in and take over. Unfortunately, I've not been able to fulfill that. I thought maybe 1 year, 2 years would have done it. Unfortunately, I needed all 4 to learn. Now it's time to do the work. I'm hoping that with the next set of 4 years, I'll probably be able to achieve more than I did.
At the Kangbere Political Summit, he poo-pooed and mocked at the 5 seats won by the party in the 2016 general election, describing it as a fluke and giving the opportunity he will do better. The MPP in the last election lost 3 seats and won 1 to their arch rivals, the NDC, reducing the total number of seats of the party to 3. Despite the reduction in the number of seats, he is still calling for praises for going beyond the pass mark.
We retained 3 seats. That's 3/5, and that equals 60%. I don't think there's any exam, if you score 60%, they will say you have failed. So as far as I'm concerned, we have still registered a pass mark, unlike before when we had 3 and lost all 3, which means we had 0%. So I believe that we did pass, and this time around we may pass even better.
Briefing on the neck of Chairman SB Kangbere is Alhaji Tweba Mahama, popularly known as ATM. He is gunning for the 3rd time to become the party's regional chair. The Zamzam Satiewata Magri says morale in the party is down and supporters of the party are downhearted.
The party spread have gone down too much to the extent people say the party is dying in the region. So the party needs a young, vibrant person like Alhaji Tweba Mahama to cushion the party up in terms of party activities and whatever, party organization. But if you realize, if you come to Upper West, you say like it's only NDC in Upper West. It's the leadership. At least they should also try me. My message is that they should try me. What I have, I will deliver it, and everybody will be happy with it.
Still on the New Patriotic Party, supporters of the party in the Akomfi constituency of the Central Region say they will reject the regional election results if the party does not schedule a date for their constituency elections in order to allow them to take part in the regional contest. They are accusing the regional executive of running down the party in the region and basing the governance of the party on personal sentiments and emotions. Richard Kwejenyaku has more in the following report.
The New Patriotic Party in the Central Region is set to hold elections to elect new officers for the region. There were a few hiccups in the build-up to the elections of polling station officers and constituency officers. However, the region may be going into the elections without one key constituency, the Akomfi constituency. This is because the constituency elections are yet to be held and there is no indication of when exactly the elections will be held to pave way for the party folk in the constituency to take part in the regional contest. Constituency Youth Organizer aspirant Samuel Kuntutechi says the constituency would not accept the regional election results if they did not allow them to have a say in the regional leadership.
We bought our forms for nomination. Vetting was done. During the vetting process, all the aspirants were cleared except Stefan Donko. Stefan Donko was asked to go to the appeals committee at region, where former chairman, Professor Fobi, was chairman of the committee. We have a set copy of that letter where Professor Fobi cleared Stefan Donko that he should go ahead and contest the elections and that a set date will be communicated to him. And that set date that will be communicated to him, it is the regional chairman and his committee that will set up that set date. Up to now, it's been over a month and over. That set date has not come. We have taken steps and written to the committee that we need our date to run our elections. Up to now, the date has not been given to us. We went to National to seek for a redress for them to also let us have our election. It was there that the regional chairman came out with an issue that Stefan Donko has insulted or has disrespected the regional chairman. If Stefan Donko has disrespected the regional chairman, what has it got to do with the other contestants? What has that insult got to do with the other contestant? Or what has that disrespect got to do with the other contestant? I am vying for the position of a youth organizer. I've gone around the various polling stations and spent money on them. And you are telling me you will not communicate today for me to run the election, for me to also take a decision at region.
Mr. Deji says if the national leadership of the party will not take a position in the matter and ensure that justice and fairness prevails, the party will bear the consequences of their silence.
Our leaders should not sit aloof. Those contesting for flag bearership, don't sit aloof. This is what we are going to do henceforth if you are not listening to us. You are not going to vote for any parliamentary candidate. Elections of parliamentary candidate will not be held in the Kumfi. Presidential aspirant candidate will never be held in the Kumfi.
This edition of the AM News. My name is Pakwisi Shandov. Do enjoy the rest of the show with Benjamin and Bernice. Well, here we go. It's time for the news review right here on the AM show. Joining me this morning, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's the Director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Stay with us. We have all the scoop from the papers. Let's start with the data graphic. Creating economic model, focus on Africa's interest. President charges states and financial institutions. So what exactly has His Excellency been saying? President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has challenged African nations and their financial institutions to come up with a new economic model that will serve the interest of their peoples and not profit advanced nations. That, he explained, was necessary because, quote, profits from our resources have benefited foreign creditors for far too long while we suffer abusive borrowing cost on the international capital market. So the president has a point here. Some of those who, when the Portuguese came to Ghana and others, they literally plundered our land. And I say it without any qualms at all, because that was what happened. The colonial period, and when these, foreign powers, Western powers, started hitting our continent, they took whatever they wanted. They had munitions that we had never seen before. They subdued us, and they took whatever they wanted. They plundered our country. But here we are, so many centuries afterwards, and we're still caught in this web where even when it comes to our own development, our own natural resources, they seem to be tied to the apron strings of the Western world. It's not to say that we shouldn't be a part of the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, and all of that. So the IMF recently is saying, do more for your people in terms of that. How do we do that? Do we come back to you? Is that the option? I mean, there are so many dynamics to this. But when Mr. President says this, what comes to mind is our royalties system and how for the last few decades, in fact, all through our development, we have had to hinge the mining, the extraction, the benefits of our mineral resources, tie them to the apron strings of powers from the West. And so it is a new form of colonialism, just like Nkrumah spoke of. We're living it today. We're being neo-colonized, if you like. Same script. So, Mr. President, how do we change it? How? That's a question for everybody. We have no business being this poor as a country. No business. But we are. Anyway, so that is Mr. President. The president added that there was no basis for African economies to be saddled with the so-called African risk premium, which translated into higher spreads for European and North American counterparts, particularly when African resources were the catalyst for the economic advancement of Western nations. But who in his right mind would say, oh, I'm developing, but I'm not going to develop, unless they have leaders who are a bit, compassionate, if you like. But that's not what we're seeing from the West. They take and they take. The likes of France, the likes of Britain, the UK put together, all of those countries, the United States, even China in Asia. Look, they're not here for our benefit. They're here for their own benefit. And that is the simple truth. Well, let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, who joins the conversation on a Wednesday morning. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
It's a pleasure having you. I was just ranting a bit about what the president has said. Focus on Africa's interests. President charges states and financial institutions. But
the mineral resources, once they are available, the West will want to take advantage. They will want their entities to give us the least royalties and, get the highest benefits for their country. So it is up to us to find ways of getting the most out of these resources, because guess what? They are finite. Those were the thoughts I was sharing earlier. Any thoughts?
Oh, yes. What you said was nothing but the right statement that needs to be made at this time. Nkrumah warned us that we must be very careful, that after independence, there will be another form of colonization that is going to be difficult for us to break the neck of that thing. We are saddled with that right now. If you have read Claude Ake's book about development, he gives us a hint that we are bankrupt of ideas. Otherwise, we will, straight away from independence, would have done something better for ourselves in terms of development and all that. We started off with a manner of ideas leading to the Lagos Plan of Action and all that. We have thrown them away, went for the Western ones, and now here we are. We can develop our own system. But you said it right, that, look, there is no business. We have no excuse not developing this state or this continent, because read Ali Mazuri, he tells you Africa is the richest and yet is the poorest. The paradox of it, what we are seeing. We have all the resources that you should be able to make us what rich, and yet we are poor. This is the case that we are bereft of ideas. Otherwise, we should be able to put things together, have our own model, and then develop our system. But one more thing also is that we lack the political will to do this. Do we have what it takes to take that decision without the fear that the Western world will not come at us? That is one thing that is worrying us. We also don't have ideas that will really translate things for us and make life better for all of us. We don't have that. More importantly, we are not ready. We are not ready for any means of any model or any paradigm shift that we need to. We are not ready. It's just a talk shop. But the real action, when it comes to that, our people will check it out. I'm afraid to say this. We are not ready.
So apt, the picture you paint. So apt. So, right on the head of the nail. There's also Audit Service wins audit report. I just felt I had to highlight this as well. The Ghana Audit Service has won the 2021 Best Performance Audit Report Prize for its report on the provision of flood control drains, which sheds light on flooding in the country. The service was adjudged the best after a unanimous declaration by the review panel of the African Organization of English-Speaking Supreme Audit Institutions, AFROSAI-E, which reviewed the report. That's on page 41. I want to link it to the recent floods. Put your surroundings in order, Meteorological Agency advises. That story is on page 16. Doc, so let me just run this by you. A few days ago, I saw a certain party person post a picture in the Daily Graphic, banner headline from 1960. It had to do with flooding. Today, 61 years on, we're still experiencing same. In fact, worse, much worse. The recent, rains have been, they last pretty long, 7 hours and the rest, and the sort of havoc it wreaks. Look, even our Lands Commission was affected. They are claiming, well, they have soft copies and so nothing has been affected. But the mere fact that an institution like that can have a place with documents, this is going to come at some cost. Getting these documents back in order, my apologies, and all of that. So I'm asking, as we say it in our local parlance, did we go or did we come? 61 years on, a problem that existed under Nkrumah is still here with us. Go, you will see a lot of our storm drains choked. There's one around the Paloma area. Choked. Recently, of course, you wouldn't expect Paloma to take it up, and I'm using this cautiously. Flooding some places in the environs of that establishment and all of that. It is serious. People send me videos. Their rooms are basically overtaken by flood water. You can't inhabit your own room. Your fridge, everything is gone. I mean, think about it. Even if you have a faulty system or you've plugged this thing in, you step into your own room, you could get electrocuted. What kind of country are we? I mean, are we in? Doc, I don't get it.
Yeah, you will not get it simply because our institutions are broken down. That's all. Institutions that are to ensure that people get the right permit to build, they have failed to do their work. Institutions that are supposed to make sure that there's proper planning when we are developing the city, they are not working. Institutions that are supposed to monitor or go around and check whether these drains are up to scratch. Are they working? They don't exist in this country. Yet they draw salary from the government. And the government is also sitting down, not taking action. And then here you are. It is a weak capacity that the state has. I am worried because if you continue on this tangent, the time comes that all the institutions are down, then we are in a failed state. I am praying we don't get there.
Well. Maybe the final story I'll do from the Daily Graphic newspaper. Woman dumps twin babies in well. Really sad. A 20-year-old lady, Elian Zumese, is in the grip of the Sunyani police for allegedly dumping her 3-month-old male twins in a well to die. The circumstances, whether economic or otherwise, I think we need to do a lot more education. Of course, look at her age, 20 years, likely with no means of sustenance, likely got pregnant mistakenly, though you can't say, I mean, you engage in certain acts, you should expect pregnancy. But all of this, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for me that this allegedly has been done. But a lot of people will tell you, even when it comes to teens getting married too young, they'll tell you economic circumstances. Doc, do you have a take on this? Or should we move on to the next one?
Yes, there are a lot of factors that will explain this. One is the fact that we are now, socialization has broken down completely, which socialization starts with agencies such as the family, where people are giving proper education about how to live, how to, mature through the process, and how to do the needful so that you don't rush into certain programs that will bring problems like this to you. All right. Socialization has broken down. The family has ceased to exist to give people proper orientation, education about these things. Apart from this, we can also say that the institutions, the agencies such as schools, have also failed on their duty to educate children about these things. So here you are. Of course, monetary bit is also part where children, now because the families are broken down, children have to fend for themselves. And the results or the consequences is some of these things that we need to do. Going forward, we need to give proper education, and it should be a continuous one. We should do it without ceasing, and then make sure that it ties in with academic programs and programs that we have in churches, mosques, shrines, and all that. Because look, we need to build the capacity of these children if we want to save the state. So that we don't incur costs and then all manner of problems as a result of this. The state must be up and doing, families must be up and doing, and then institutions that are taxed to ensure that children get properly educated, socialized, so that they become fit for purpose. Those institutions must be seen to be working. We need that. We need that.
We sure do. Let's look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. At AGM of African Development Bank in Accra, let's develop African economic model to serve our interests. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. OSP charges MCE nominee to appear before Kumasi High Court. Torrential rains wreak havoc in Accra, disrupt economic activity and destroy property. That story is on page 15. If you see something, say something. Launched to sensitize public to threats of terrorism. I'll just do two stories, the one on page 10 and the one on page 16. Let's start with the one on page 10 very quickly. And if you see something, say something. The senior presidential advisor at the presidency, Mr. Yao Safo-Mafo, has called on Ghanaians to put away their differences and forge ahead as a united people in combating the threats of terrorism in the country. According to him, the fight against the increasing threats of terrorism in the country could only be won if all Ghanaians came together and actively supported the security agencies in that direction. And quoting him, he says, if you see something, say something. This is a status that cannot and should not be taken for granted. He was talking about Ghana's democracy and the fact that we are an oasis for peace on the continent. But do you feel that genuinely there are some people who would say, maybe I'm not in support of this administration or this party, so I'm not going to support the cause. Even if I see something, I am not going to say anything. Do you feel, politically speaking, there are such elements? And what do we do, education, to bring them out of that state?
Yeah, there are elements like that in our society, that they don't care a hoot about what happens to the state. But they should remember that they have no state except Ghana. So we owe it a duty to ourselves to protect and defend this state at all times, so that we can, survive. Education has to come in where people get to know that they owe the state a responsibility, and they owe it not only to the state, to themselves as well. We need proper education, a continuous one, and we need also to build the capacity of our people. Like, it is not enough to say that you have seen something, you have to say something. We should be able to educate our people, build their capacity in such a way that they should go beyond this to provide certain information, data, to security people without fear. Sometimes people are afraid of churning out information because of certain negative consequences and all that. We should clear all those things, those doubts in the minds of people, and get them properly framed for such exercise. That means that we need to build their capacity to be able to do the needful for this state and for themselves.
And so far, we hear a lot of commentary about terrorist threats and this and that. But have we done enough? Have we done enough? I mean, there's a lot of talk about it. Oh, let's beware, let's be careful. It could hit us next. And we have the signs, the writing is on the wall. Because usually they would also attack resource-rich countries. We have the gold, we have the oil, we have all of these things that entice people like that. Some say they would attack our coastline and all of that. But are we doing enough as a state? Because I always say we've never been tested really when it comes to the terrorist threat. Most of our neighbors have. We have never been. So when you look at our state of readiness from the point of the military, from the point of even internal security, like the national security operatives, like the Ghana Police Service, you look at our resources, financial and all of that. Is it comforting for you?
We don't have resources, but let us give the government some credit. All governments we have seen since terrorism emerged on the international plane, Ghana has done its bit to bring it to where we are now. The fact that we have not been attacked tells you that our security have been working 24/7. What we need to do is to build their capacity, help to give resources that will enable them procure certain materials, certain equipment to be able to do the work and do it better. That is what we need, and also strengthen them to fight this battle. But I believe that over the years they've done a lot for this country. Otherwise, we have been hit long time. The fact that we have not been hit tells you that there's a work that is going on. But that is not to say that we don't need to build their capacity. We need to build it and build it solidly so that they can, do the work for us. Right.
Now, as I take the next story, here is, Bernard Bafo, and it's a bit of a blanket statement, but you tell me whether you disagree after I read what I'm about to. It's on the Facebook thread, those watching us live. Bernard Bafo says, thieves everywhere in Ghana, MPP and NDC. Here's the story on page 17 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. OSP charges MCE nominee to appear before Kumasi High Court. And we know the story. Alexander Kwabena Safo-Kantanka, the man who was seen in a video in September 2021, allegedly asking for a refund of 1,000 cedis each from assembly members of the New Dwaben Municipal Assembly in the Ashanti region for not endorsing him as MCE, has finally been charged. He is expected to make his first appearance before the Kumasi High Court Criminal Division after he was charged with 26 counts of corruption by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Mr. Safo-Kantanka was President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's MCE nominee for New Dwaben, who claimed that that assembly members took money from him to confirm his nomination but failed to do so. In September 2021, the then nominee was seen in a video asking for a refund from the assembly members after he obtained only 3 out of 26 votes in the first round of voting. Does that confirm what this person watching live has said? Corruption everywhere. The rot is everywhere. Our leaders are all gone.
Oh, this is not a new statement. We know already, except that we are not ready to fight corruption. All we have done over the years is rhetoric, paying lip service to the fight against corruption. We are not ready. Because look, this phenomenon has been with us since time of Noah, when he was a sailor, all right? We've seen this time and again. Read reports about this, and people have come out with a number of reports, but we don't do anything about it. We have seen them on videos, and you recall there was MPP primaries, and somebody went and gave out bicycles and all that, and people voted against him, and he was on the social network demanding a return of the bicycles and all that. What happened to that person? It tells you there is what? Political corruption. People use corrupt means to get power. They influence people. They induce people, which are against the laws. But once you belong to a certain political party, you are untouchable. Political parties have failed, or government for that matter, have failed to deal with those people. So some of these things will come and then they fly past. We are not able to handle it. I'm happy that the OSP is taking political notice of this and is want to handle it. I am all for it. But I want to believe that he will have the capacity, he will have the courage to continue when he gets a lot of people to court. The political actors will come at him, but he must be very strong. This is where we need him to be able to be strong and then fight it. Otherwise, the office will lose its shine. I am with him. I support him. He must get the courage to continue and get more of such people to face the music. Yes.
Well, staying on that tangent, maybe fittingly, the Daily Guide newspaper, of course, interesting headlines. Rains strip Accra naked. That's a very picturesque way of putting it. And then they talk about the Dwabeng MPP chairman who has been charged for corruption, Nana pushing for economic reform, that is the president, and Jeff Kunedu kicking off his Eastern Regional chairmanship campaign. But how about staying on that tangent? Sir John owns no land at Achimota Forest. This is an interesting one. I'm sure you followed all the commentary, the Lands Ministry, what they've said about Achimota land, and even if he acquired it at any point, it cannot be passed on, it cannot be willed to anybody. But you look at the dynamics, what we've seen, shockingly, and dead men don't talk. So, of course, we would try not to, because he can't be here to defend himself. But the lands, even at a point, the Ramsar side talking about, chiefs, don't do this. Apparently, he was mining there. The acquisitions, the landed property, so buildings in a space of 5 months. I mean, how property was acquired every 2 to 3 months. A new building, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom. And you look at the list. You look at 2017, after he got his position, all the way till his unfortunate demise. And you look at the sort of things he acquired. People are asking, how is that possible? And does it even make sense to want to be patriotic and to want to do it the right way work hard in this country anymore, because someone in the twinkling of an eye, because of a political position, can get everything. And you work your buttocks off for 4 decades, 5 decades, and retire on some local fuel that will not even fill your fuel tank. Your reflections on the Sir John matter, his will, his last testament, and matters arising.
We are in difficult times. Why? We want a democracy, but our actions do not support the firming of democratic structures. Why am I saying this? Democracy requires us to be sincere, to be law-abiding and all that. But you see, you give political power to people and then they amass wealth. They create all manner of problems for the state. What is more worrying is that the state is not able to sanction those individuals so that they serve as deterrent to others. We always want to glorify. We always want to even raise those people to high heavens and all that. I think what has come out from Sir John's story must be a learning curve for all of us. And if we are able to weather the storm, I think we'll save this democracy and protect it forever. If we fail to do this, I'm afraid we are going to get all manner of institutions down, and then we go back to the state of nature, which you and I do not want to go.
The final bits I'll do, just a bit of entertainment from the Daily Guide newspaper. Black Sheriff cautions Black Rasta. And Black Rasta appears to be underestimating his hard work, according to Black Sheriff, the Kweku the Traveler hitmaker. And basically, Black Rasta is saying you could end up being a one-trick pony, you know, one style, and that's it. But Black Sheriff is saying, no, I was doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and look, don't downgrade me. Don't think that this is a fluke, it's just luck. Black Rasta, I suggest you support the guy if you can. I mean, yes, caution, yeah, but sometimes I think we overdo it with some of these young artists. They are young and they will mess up at some point. Who hasn't messed up before? Hands in the air. Let's give them benefit of the doubt. If you remember from way back, VIP, Friction regrets abandoning VIP, and Sam Ajetefio goes home on June the 4th. All of those stories in the Daily Guide newspaper. Let's do Republic Press. African business leaders to storm Kweku in October. Girl 16 stabbed to death over boyfriend. Nowadays, you don't get it. Someone has been, given an acid bath. Another person has been slashed with machetes. Another person has been stabbed. There's also SP charges dropping, bribe MCE. No one will inherit Sir John's alleged land at Achimota Forest, according to the lands minister. And lands ministry, or lands commission. Anyway, minority calls for probe into Achimota Forest lands declassification. Any thoughts on that? The minority calling for a probe into the Achimota Forest land declassification saga. Your thoughts, Doc? Any reflections on that?
I believe that lands that have been acquired for public use must be used for that purpose. If we are not interested in that, we give it back to the owners. There's no point ordinary people will maximize its usage to the detriment of those who own the lands. That becomes unfair, and that will serve as, a stumbling block for those who want to give their property for state use. That correction needs to be done. So I support the call by the minority that these things must be probed so that we get the full facts and then act on them. Act on them. The magic word is that we should be able to act on them. Sometimes probes are set up, reports are generated, and they gather dust in our shelves and libraries and all that. What do we do with it? If we want to go into action, we need to do that. Otherwise, there's no point having even any committee at all. It's a waste of our resources. But I think we need to save this state by doing the needful. Democracy hinges on law. So if we don't want to use the law to regulate the conduct of the people, then we must as well forget about democracy, because then we are not ready to practice it.
All right. The Finder newspaper now. Kwewu Summit to attract over 500 political and business leaders. There's also vigilance of citizens crucial in fight against terrorism. Stories we've already looked at. Let me wrap with the BNFT. After the African Continental Free Trade Area arrangement loses $5 billion yearly to third-party payment systems, as AU makes case for perhaps, of course, AU Day on our hands. Inflation targeting framework still effective. Addison, that's according to the Bank of Ghana governor. Rising prices coming from global shocks. There's also PAPS remains most important African monetary initiative in decades. That's according to Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who has urged capital market stakeholders within the sub-region to ride on the back of the Pan-African payment and settlement system as they seek to further integrate, describing the platform as the most important monetary development in Africa since 1960. I had the benefit of being there hosting that program as Master of Ceremonies, and it was indeed a wonderful event. But this is what the Vice President is saying. When you look at our failure to get the eco running and all the dynamics here, even in West Africa, we have ECOWAS, but how integrated are we? You want to move to the next Francophone country, and especially if you're from an Anglophone country, it's a bit more difficult and all of that. We say we have the Ghana card, we want to have a system where you can use it, go around, but all of these things are not really working. When you look at integration, what more do you want to see so that Africa can benefit from African intra-trade and not develop, depend so much on trade from the Western world?
Are we ready to walk the talk? There have been a lot of talk on this. And you rightly said about our inability to let the eco come on board and work. I was a reporter at the Office of the President, 2001, when President Kufuor and his colleagues signed a memorandum to this effect at Yamoussoukro. All right. I thought that right away from that place, we were going to into full action. How many years on? And the same story is being said. My brother, let's forget about African leaders with regard to some of these things. They will only come and talk. They are not ready. But I believe a day will come where we'll have some leaders who will take the bull by the horn and decide that, look, enough of the rhetorics, and they will walk the talk. That day will come, and democracy will be a champion on that day.
Democracy will prevail. I like your optimism. I love it. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us this morning for the review.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
We are grateful to you. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, joining us for a conversation. Right before I go, let me just send some shouts to my friend, my brother, Samuel Kafui Avowulano. You are gunning for SRC president at the Ghana School of Law. You did fantastic at the recent vetting. Guess what? I'm just wishing you the very best this morning as you go into the election. Let's see what happens. Up next, we have Oreku with sports coming up on the show. Stay. All right, so here we are again, and we're getting into our big stories after AM Business. And Parliament has resumed. 3 MPP MPs are to be hurled before the Privileges Committee of Parliament over absenteeism. We know them. We'll be getting into that discussion. We'll also talk about the minority leader demanding that there should be an inquiry into the alleged sale of portions of the Achimota forest. The Achimota forest is back in the picture. It's never gone anywhere anyway. So what are the dynamics we should know, and all the bits about compassionate grounds and people owning land there? We'll get into the details with Al-Hassan Suini, Member of Parliament, Tamale North, Dr. Kingsley Nyako, Member of Parliament, Kwadaso. Both of them join us right here in the studio. Al-Hassan, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you very much for your invitation, and let me say good morning to our viewers.
All right. We also have Dr. Kingsley Nyako from Kwadaso constituency. Kwadaso, you were just telling me before we came that you had spent your entire, recess at Kwadaso. So what have you been up to in Kwadaso?
So let me say a very good morning to your viewers. Since we rose, I had been in the constituency, so I came down on Sunday night. Because we had internal elections, I need to be there to ensure that the elections were done properly. There were also some litigation issues surrounding the elections at Kwadaso. And I also had to be there to ensure that we went through the process. Luckily for us, the plaintiff's petition was dismissed. So we were able to proceed to conduct the constituency executive elections. As we speak, there's an appeal, but we see how things go. And I also took the opportunity to interact with my constituents, to monitor and observe issues that had to be dealt with. So, so far, it's okay, but in politics, because we have, divergent interests and all that, you wouldn't have it, very easy, So you try to ensure that at least you have the majority of the people on board and pursue an agenda that will kneel to the benefits of all the constituents. So, we see how things go, So, Ben, so if you ask me about Kwadaso, it's okay. And Kwadaso is okay. There are some issues that I've said earlier on regarding, differences in terms of positions in the constituency. Because we have about three blocks over there, and obviously there will be issues. But in political circles, these things are normal. But how to navigate yourself away from them and to be focused and ensure that you deliver your mandate to the full fulfillment and benefits of the constituency. For me, that is the most paramount objective that I'm carrying. And I know that the constituents appreciate the letter that I'm doing, and God is also backing me to accomplish my mandate. So far, so good.
All right, so far, so good. The recent rains, has Kwadaso been affected? It's covered different parts of the country. How have your people fared?
I think Kwadaso, we've not witnessed the devastation that we are witnessing in other parts of the country. So far, I've not seen that, but for me, this is a yearly occurrence. And I think that something...
Which is sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's become a ritual.
I think something drastic and dramatic must be done to ensure that, these occurrences become a thing of the past. Every year we talk about them. And for me, it is also sad and worrying, as if we are not making progress in dealing with the flooding situation in our country. Is
it that we are not making progress, or it is as if we are not making progress? Because look, I see people's homes, electrical gadgets and everything. I was just sharing with Dr. Kwame Asante. Do you know how dangerous it is to have a fridge and all of that? The rains have taken over your room. Merely stepping in there, you could get electrocuted. It's mind-boggling, and people are living this. People have been living this. Go to Atiko, the police quarters. They've been living that for over 16 years.
You see, in some advanced countries, you see this happening, but it is an exception. At times it happens. It's not like an annual ritual that we are experiencing here. I remember Jacob first time, Aveno area, Alajo area, they used to have serious problems. But I think that place is a bit better. Okay, what did we do there to protect the inhabitants over there against those previous devastating floods? Okay, so we need to find a concrete solution to this problem. It is so worrying that all that, and you see, apart from maybe lack of investment in the area to ensure that this occurrence becomes a thing of the past, human activities, we need to also check our behaviors. You know what I mean? For me, I can tell you that the situation is getting worse. It's getting aggravated because what I'm seeing, you know, waters gathered in people's offices, in their homes.
The Lands Commission itself. I mean, that's how bad it gets. A state institution. They say they have soft copies of everything, but the mere fact that even if we have to do this again, then get the paper documentation again, that's a whole lot of work.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I think that what I've witnessed the last few days is more serious than last year. You know what I mean? So it means that if you're not careful, next year is going to be worse because of human activities. We need to check our behaviors, our attitudes. You know what I mean? This issue is a shared responsibility. Government must do its part. And we, the citizens, we must be patriotic enough and do the right things. Don't do the right things. I mean, we build anywhere. We throw refuse, in gutters and all that. These are not good. For me, if people throw debris and rubbish in gutters, what's the responsibility of the local assembly? What are they doing about that? I mean, the inhabitants, when they see people perpetrating this kind of crime, what is our response to that? In most cases, we watch unconcerned whilst, they destroy the environment. And when we watch unconcerned, this eventually hits us. Okay, so then I think we need to do more about this. I will be sad if we come here next year and we are talking about the same thing. Then we must be proactive in dealing with this cancer. You know, apart from damages to buildings and then houses, and human beings are also, suffering. You know, bridges are broken and all that. I mean, Accra is the capital city. And if this thing is happening all the time here, it should be a source of worry. And I think that the president is not happy about that, but we must do something. Those in charge of the department, the ministries, the agencies, the assemblies, and who have been put there to ensure that we live in a very conducive, habitable environment, must begin to lead the way and make sure that this is nipped in the bud.
Okay, the work of ministries, agencies, departments, they must kick in.
Because they are put there to solve a problem.
The point,
not solving a problem.
The point, Dr. Nyako, is if you leave us all to do whatever we like, that is what will happen. Have you taken a look at the, right in front of Paloma? You see that more of a storm drain, if you like, there. Have you seen how choked it is? And that is replicated in so many different parts of Accra. And every time it rains, go to those neighborhoods, you will see the picture there. So we know what it is, but we turn a blind eye to it, and then we come crying, hey, we want to see more people dying. It's unfortunate I'm saying this, but it is the reality. When people die, then, hey, and we'll do something. Then we go back to sleep, and more people will keep dying. I always go back to that Canadian who used to bet on Accra floods. This guy was winning year after year. They had to stop. They had to stop that betting opportunity because in fact, if he had been betting till today, he would still be winning. Let's start with your constituency before we get into the rates. How is Tamale North?
Well, Tamale North is fine. We are also engaged in the reorganization of our party in preparation for the 2024 general elections. So what is currently happening is that we are registering new members. The registration of old members ended a couple of weeks ago, and we have begun the registration of new members. And so let me take this opportunity to extend an invitation to all in Tamale North constituency to contact their branch leaders of the NDC to pick up their membership card, especially in the times that we are in. We all have to join forces to rescue this nation and put it back on the track of progress and development. On the issue of floods, unfortunately, my constituency is not also spared. Every time...
Were you there during the recess?
Yes.
Is that where you spent most of your time?
Yes, most of my weekends and better part of the week I spent in the constituency. There are a couple of trips I had to make abroad. That's what took me out. But like I said, anytime there are heavy rains, parts of the constituency gets flooded. And so when you hear that it is raining heavily in Tamale, you are on tenterhooks because you know that you will be the first point of call when the people are experiencing floods. Areas like Gumani, Kambletu, Naile, Fo, and the surrounding areas always get flooded. Kalapohani, parts of Kalapohani as well. And this is not rocket science. I mean, the solution to this is not like studying rocket science. It is basic. We have these storm drains that we have attempted to construct over the years. In fact, for decades now, the successive governments come, they do a little, and then they abandon it. And that has been the story. So you have this major storm drain running through Gumani, and then the other one also coming all the way from the Garba Lodge area. You recall that one time, even the water in that area took the life of a young lady, mother, who happened to be the classmate of the vice president. He attended the funeral, made a number of pledges in 2017, 2018. None has been redeemed, and the people still continue to live with the fear of getting flooded every time a heavy rain comes down. But in general, I think that it is a shame, collective shame, that in this day and age, we still discuss floods every year and the effects of it every year. I mean, I have said that it looks as if Africans, and for that matter, Ghanaians, are blessed to their point of curse. I compare our situation in terms of flood to how other parts of the world have been able to deal with snow. I mean, I believe snow is worse than floods. Why? Because snow falls consistently, sometimes for weeks. Yet people have been able to manage their communities and their cities and their countries in such a way that the impact of snow on life activities and threats to life and property is that minimal. But in our case, you don't have a situation where rain falls consistently for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
It just
Which is a good thing, because look, when it rains for 2-3 hours.
That's why I say we are blessed. That's why I say we are blessed to our point of curse. It just rains for a couple of hours, and every year, for decades now, we count heavy losses after few hours of rain. That is something you cannot, accept. As a people who are also given, the knowledge and the resources to do things right. And I agree with Doug, that people who are in authority must begin to address this issue holistically, and that includes all of us. The throwing of good money at this problem over the years have yielded very, very little results. So we need to begin to look at how the money that we have are thrown at this problem of floods. I mean, the minister said they had spent 450 million Ghana cedis in the last couple of months or years or so, in dealing with floods. And yet people are dying, people are losing properties. So it will be important to find out in which areas did we spend that 450 million and what, benefits or impact have we gotten from that amount of money. And same can be acts of, previous expenditure that we have extended in, in the area of
managing the same
situation. I think that we have to, show our anger as a people, and raise our voices to demand better from city authorities and all those who are charged with the responsibility of making our cities safe. I agree again with Doc when he says that human behavior is key. But you see, human behavior is also controlled. And human behavior also even includes maybe this is a diversion, but the decision to, reclassify Achimota forest and turn it into a concrete jungle is human behavior.
Right.
That's human behavior. I know we'll discuss that. That's human behavior because it has taken human beings to decide that the best use of the forest that today makes the flooding in Accra less, impactful, the decision is that it should be replaced with concrete jungle. And that is human behavior. And again, if you go to our communities and our cities, they are supposed to be governed by bylaws. People.
Question is, are the bylaws working?
Exactly.
Are they kicking in?
People who are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the bylaws work should be seen doing what they are supposed to do. You go to Kaswa,
you go to Weja, you go to Shama, you go to places where people, people are building in all kinds of places. We know this is a disaster.
Exactly.
We're waiting for it to happen.
Exactly. And so the human behavior is not just, limited to people who are out of power, who are doing the wrong thing. It is also extended to people who are in authority and have the responsibility of ensuring that those who will want to cut corners and do the wrong thing are checked and put right. Because human nature as it is, if you do not provide those balances, those checks, people will want to do things the way they
Like
feel.
I said, I mean, if you give the advantage to people, they'll
always abuse and exceed.
But how do you react then? And I just don't want to mention the person's name. We saw a tweet recently from, someone in establishment, let's put it that way, at least who is tied to establishment.
Yeah, I know who.
And the post was, it was the headline, daily graphic, like this, from 1960. And it was talking about the fact that, yes, Accra had been ravaged by floods and all of that. So it's some 61 years on, and we're still practically in the same situation, if not worse. Dr. Nyako and Al-Hassan, if not worse. How does that strike you? Because then, I mean, when I sit down as a non-politician, and I look at that, I'm like, oh, okay, so then, I mean, it is, it probably forever will be, so let's just fold our arms, right?
I felt very insulted, and I'm sure many Ghanaians also felt the same way. I think that it was insensitive on the part of this influential fellow to have, sent out such a tweet. And people, have gone even back to dig for his old tweets when he did not have the influence in terms of impacting government, the way he does now, and what he tweeted about, floods in Accra. And it is just a sign of the insensitivity that some people who are in authority are beginning to show when people express concerns and frustrations that they are faced with daily. I don't think that was, appropriate at all. Because why? You recall that in opposition, people like himself, ridiculed Oko van der Poy when Accra got flooded at the time. Yes, former mayor of Accra, at a time that they were hosting a conference on resilient cities.
Oh yeah, I
remember that.
I remember.
The excitement with which they ridiculed.
And that was a bad thing, though. I mean, you're hosting on resilience, and your city is flooded.
Yeah. You recall the excitement with which they ridiculed him and showed how incompetent and inept the administration at the time was. For which reason they asked the people of Ghana to give them the mandate. So if you got the mandate 6-7 years down the line, Accra floods, and you tell us that it's been flooding since 1960, are you not insulting us? So I think it was so insensitive.
Right. Quick reaction.
I think we need to be, as I said earlier on, very proactive. If you look at our assemblies, then you go to some areas where the inhabitants don't even have a place to dump their refuse.
Right.
So you ask yourself, where do they dump them? So I think that the assemblies,
that's a realistic problem.
The assemblies must be very, very proactive and make sure that they don't give opportunity for the inhabitants to do things their own way. Because honestly, if you don't have a place to dump your refuse, you'll be tempted to throw it anywhere. And when it is thrown anywhere, another issue is that how are the laws applied to such persons? I've led so many cleanup exercises in my constituency. You go and silt a gutter, and about a month or so time, it is choked again. You realize that the people are not taking personal responsibility. we need to take personal responsibility as individuals to make sure that...
It is choked again, perhaps because of the first point you made. The Assembly has not made provision for proper disposal of the waste. So it impacts the human behavior. That's the point. That's the point.
And we can even talk about desilting and all of that, and how in some areas
regular
this has stalled and all of that. That is a disaster.
And you observe that the flooding is caused by some of these activities, most of them. So if the assemblies are proactive and make sure that the necessary amenities are provided, number one. Number two, consequences to some of these behaviors. If the laws are applied, I'm sure that we'll be making progress. We don't have to leave everything at the doorsteps of government. Government must play its role from the top. But at the local level, that's why we have this decentralization system in place. The local assemblies, for me, should be at the heart of fighting this perennial canker confronting us all the time.
Okay, all right.
I mean, that is very important.
Hold it there for me. Let me come back briefly on this bit, very briefly to you, Al-Hassan Suidi. In this 30-year experience of democracy in the Fourth Republic, the MPP, as of now, has enjoyed 14 years in power. 2000 to 2008, and now 2016 till 2022. You have enjoyed 16 years in power, your party. Because we are 2 years away from chalking 32 years in the Fourth Republic. What have you, what can you also say you've done, your party, in terms of dealing with flooding? Because if we were all chipping in our bits, maybe the situation wouldn't be as bad as it is. What have you done in terms of resolving the problem?
Well, I like the zeroing in on the NDC, which is very easy, but just 2 years apart. Maybe in about 2024, when we have this discussion, then we would have done equal number of years.
I'm just trying to find out.
Yes, I agree.
As I go here, I also want to find out, what have you guys been doing?
I agree with you that it is a fair, request to make, that we must all come to the table with what we've been doing over the years. But clearly, if you look at the storm drains that he spoke of, Alajo to Nima today, which has become a receptacle of vehicles these days when it rains. Many of these projects were either started, continued, or completed by the administration of the NDC. At some point, the MPP would have also gone into it. So, but we need more of such drains, and we need better planning. In my view, what we really need is a national development plan that we will all agree with. Because this, bits and pieces of NPP does this to deal with flood, so they do a drain to this point. NDC comes, they also take it to some point, or even abandon it and go and start another one. It's not the appropriate way to deal with this situation. But clearly, I mean, you cannot take away the contributions of these two political parties when it comes to improving drainage and improving the implementation of bylaws, such as breaking down buildings, that are put up in waterways. But the conversation we are having this morning is that all of that have not fixed the problem to, our admiration as a people, to our satisfaction as a people. And that is why we need to begin to demand that more is done. I mean, some of the transformations that have taken place, Circle used to be worse than it is today. But for the inability to continue with the project of working on the Odona, is that the name of the place? Odona. Yes. If we had reconstructed the Odona the way that Circle was reconstructed to complement Circle, I'm sure we wouldn't have had floods there. But if you do one and you leave the other, you are still going to have this situation. So we are saying that we need to have a plan. I'm saying that we need to have a plan that all parties will buy into, so that when the party like the NDC does the transformation you see around Circle and unfortunately leaves government, the next government should be thinking of what to do around Circle to complement the improvement there, so that it gets better. And not just to say, well, what have you done, and yet people are dying, people are losing properties.
So, you know,
make this very brief.
Yeah,
I want to run one thing by you.
You remember engineers and planners and the fact that government had equipment and it had to desilt it for free and the hula baloo around it, the place is stuck there. Today, no one is doing anything there, and then the situation is still biting us. So the politicization is also the problem.
You and I know, and I made an earlier point by saying that we can't do away with flooding. Flooding at times is caused by, you know, a natural, you know, event. You know, in advanced jurisdictions, flooding happens. So
we saw Germany. Was it last year?
Yeah,
chaotic scenes.
I mean, so we will.
These are not annual events, though. We need to stress that they don't experience it.
I'm making a point. No, I'm making a point. I'm saying that occasionally it happens due to whatever reasons. Okay, but the point is that what we are seeing is self-induced. Okay,
self-inflicted.
That is it, because it can be if we do our things well. Now you see the debris in the gutter. You see them. Who caused them? I mean, the human beings who caused them. So my point is that we have to.
So whom do you blame? The human beings who caused them, or the state authorities who are not ensuring that the people can't do that in the first place, or that if you do, there are punitive measures?
So, I did psychology, and I've taught psychology for a very long time. Consequences of behavior are very important. If people see that what they do will be rewarded or punished, then they think twice before they do it. So if people misbehave and they are not punished, tendency for them to continue is there. So laws must work, okay? And if you're a patriotic citizen, you also understand that you don't have to do anything that will injure your environment or your community, okay? So, I mean, this is a two-way street. I studied in Germany, okay? It's one of the cleanest countries that I've seen. And what I learned there was that when I even use something, okay, and I have to dispose that thing off, and I don't see any garbage bin around, I put them in my pockets or in my car. It has been with me till today. So if you are conscious.
I do say, I never drop, so there's a certain consciousness, but you have to instill it in people.
Yeah,
you know, there are people who will actually sit in trotro,
exactly.
and they will tell you, oh, I don't want to drop it in the trotro. They feel as though they were dirtying the trotro, but they feel comfortable littering the streets.
That's it. So if you have this state of consciousness, Suini also has, and I also, and others have, this negative impact on the environment will diminish, I'm telling you.
Right.
So we need to enforce the laws. We ourselves must also ensure that we love our country, we love our environment. We must do right to promote the safety of our environment.
All right. Very quickly, so I want us to focus on Parliament and the Achimota bit, but I just quickly have to sneak in this bit, and I'm looking at the time so that we can, in 3 minutes maximum, if you can. The Awin situation where, a party office of the NPP has been set ablaze and all those developments. Now, the NEC is calling for a by-election. The people are saying no, that they feel disgruntled like we saw in Okaikwe South. And they're accusing some top officials in the party of manipulating the electoral process to favor some candidates. It appears it's turning out to be bad to worse, frying pan to fire within your party's, I don't know, when it comes to the by-elections. What exactly is happening?
At our Wing constituency, it's not a by-election. I think...
Well, not technically not a by-election.
The National Council asked the election to be rerun.
Yeah.
And...
That's the proper term. Thanks for the
clarification. Yeah, rerun, and the people objected to it. But you see, there are suitable methods of dealing with some of these things. The National Council decided that, per the evidence that it has before her, the election has to be rerun. If you disagree, that is not the way to go by touching the party office. Because at the end of the day, you also need resources to rebuild that office. That attitude, for me, is something we don't have to entertain or condone. In my constituency, there were issues. Some people petitioned the regional party, the national party. We met the election committee, and we were absolved. Subsequently, because they were not satisfied, they went to court, okay, and court dismissed their application. Okay, as we speak, they file an appeal, right? I mean, that's the way to go. Okay, so you don't take the law into your own hands. We are building a democracy, and we need to be, exercise restraint in some of these, things. Because at the end of the day, some of these things can even impair the image and the reputation of the party and the country, which is worrying. Okay, so I advise people who have issues that let us resort to the right procedures in dealing with differences and issues that we think are not inuring to our benefit or detrimental to our position.
So you think this doesn't point to a real problem in the party structures and how you've gone about? Because it's not one. You see here in Accra, this is Western North. In so many pockets of the country where you're facing these problems. And it appears your leadership has lost control over the grassroots. Because everybody is doing, this burning bit, we've seen it up north, we are seeing it in Western North, we've seen so many things happen. What is happening?
We have 275 constituencies, right? And for me, I can say that these are pockets of issues, isolated issues, though sad, because majority of the constituencies don't have the issues that we are experiencing right now in some constituencies. The NDC is supposed to have theirs from next month or so. And the way I see our democracy, for me, 3 decades, some of these things happen, but I think that as we move on, they will reduce to the barest minimum. It doesn't mean that the party leadership has failed. If the party leadership has failed, they wouldn't in the first place have called them for resolution, listened to them, gave them audience, and said that per the evidence we have, we think that has to be rerun.
So you disagree with some of those, and this isn't the first time we've had this, just to wrap. You disagree with those at the grassroots who are saying, we feel the neck, we feel the party in some of these constituencies is trying to impose people on us. You're trying to find a way of getting some people in when we at the grassroots don't want those people.
People have divergent views. People have supported. People they support.
Okay.
So always they're more likely to stand by the person they support. In my case, for example, I've heard people saying that I'm being favored and all that. These are coming from people who are opposed to me. And in human societies, then these things are normal. These things happen. Okay, they might be abnormal, but they happen. They are part of how we build society. But I believe that our 30 years of democratic governance, we can improve. Okay, so moving forward, you see improvement in the way we do our things. Very soon, if there's more transparency, people have belief in the system, because then we are sure that these things...
and the transparency and the rest will not just happen overnight. We need to let the systems kick in.
Like took time.
Former President Obama said. Okay.
US has been around, the democracy is over 2 centuries or so. Okay, right. So we will get there.
We shall get there. Let's get into the substantive matters. Let me just shout Kaguta, Joel. You are watching us live from Uganda. Thank you for doing the watching. Parliament back in.
Comment on that one.
No.
I should comment on the MPP.
You are yet to have yours, so...
Okay.
So,
I'm just asking.
No, go ahead if you want to briefly, and then we'll get into Parliament.
I'll postulate what will happen in their party.
I understand your difficulty in commenting on this matter, because his constituency has had its own share, and I believe that was one of the reasons why he had to stay in the constituency throughout the recess to douse the flames. There was a challenge to even prevent them from having the elections because they thought that the ground was set up to favor him.
But I made the point myself. They went to court.
That's the point he just made.
Yeah, they went to court and the court dismissed the application.
No, in fact, they granted the injunction at first, but other things happened.
Other things like
you and I know.
I think we can zero it.
But that's by the way.
On the broader
I wish you well. Yeah, but it's part of it. It's part of it. It's democracy. It's internal democracy, and the general feeling and sentiments in the MPP that they are losing their democratic credentials.
Oh no, that's not.
As far as the organization.
Is that how you feel?
Oh, that's not true.
I'm saying the general feeling in the MPP. I'm not in the MPP, so I can't feel that way.
Not true.
I'm just saying the general feeling in the MPP is that they
you are yet to have yours, so we shall see what is going to happen.
You know, and the widespread agitations, you know, should not surprise you. I mean, if you follow the district chief executive elections across the country, you saw what they did. You know, was that democratic?
Elections.
In some cases, some assemblymen prevented by force using, you know, states' security from accessing even the grounds. I mean,
there were no district.
I condemn the violence, and I urge the security agencies in the Awin constituency or area to deal with those who may have engaged in this violence. And I am hoping they are doing same in second deputy speaker's constituency for Mina, you know, where some people also engage in. But I hope they are doing all of this. But generally speaking, I sympathize with members of the MPP who are beginning to realize that the current crop of leaders of their party have corrupted the democratic credentials of the party. But this corruption started in opposition when President Akufo-Addo took over as the leader of the party. I sympathize with them that they are beginning to feel the effect of that the undemocratic tendencies of the current crop of leaders.
MPP is the most democratic party in this country, and you know that. If it comes to democratic credentials, no party in this country beat us, and you're aware. You know what I mean?
Well, you can tickle yourself.
No, I can hypothesize.
You can tickle yourself.
What is going to happen during the internal elections?
The NDC's internal
It's going to be worse than what we are going through. And
that's what you foresee.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. I'm hypothesizing. He is a politician, okay? He's been around for a long time. Used to be a journalist. Our democratic dispensation is growing. Some of these teething problems are expected. And I'm convinced that a time will come that these things will be either nipped in the bud or we see them on a minimum scale. Okay. So and we have to be fair to the facts and put this in context. Right. Don't say Akufo. What has Akufo
I sympathize. I mean, you hear it among the MPP that their party is hijacked. Their party is hijacked by undemocratic elements.
Oh, come on.
Let's move the conversation.
Both of you think about what is going to happen to, I mean,
he says you should also do think about the fire that is coming.
Well, there's no fire coming at all. There's no fire.
Okay. Parliament has resumed.
I agree with them that you will have, you know, bits and pieces of some of these disagreements when elections
they do happen.
But when it becomes widespread and begin to engender the feeling of undemocratic credentials of leadership,
in your party, it becomes a problem. Party offices were touched down. In your party,
well, pray there will be no fire on the mountain in your party.
No, that's the point.
Because when there's fire on the mountain, we'll come here and do this.
That's the point I'm making. That over the years, all parties every now and then, when they go to elections, you know, deal with these disagreements that sometimes get violent.
But not on this scale.
But not on this scale. That is the difference that I'm making.
And he is saying we should put him on record that you are going to
have the same problem. That will have worse.
No, how many constituencies can you mention?
Oh,
we have 275. How many can you mention?
Oh, unless yours is part. Unless yours is part.
No,
yours is part.
No. Let's clarify it. In democratic dispensation, when people have issues, there are laid down procedures that they have to follow. And I've told you in my constituency.
Doc, I think it's clear.
When they had issues, they went to NEC.
I don't want to go into the details of Kwadaso, so let's move on.
And the court dismissed.
Let's not take this as a personal problem.
Yeah, so let's go.
All right. Parliament has resumed, and we're looking forward to a whole lot. One of the major issues to contend with has to do with, should we say the famous or the infamous 3?
Yeah.
And coming before the Privileges Committee and what we can expect. I'll start with you, Al-Hassan. What do you foresee? What are you looking forward to as these 3? Because I know you have a position on this matter. Is your position still the same?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think that Parliament should not bother itself with somebody like Adjo Asafo.
They shouldn't. When you say they shouldn't bother themselves, what do you mean?
I think that she was called to higher service after she was voted for by the people of what's the name of the constituency? Domi. She was called to higher service as Minister of State of the Republic of Ghana.
When she was made Minister for Gender,
Yes.
Women's
Higher service.
Social protection.
With the responsibility of running the ministry. In the beginning, it was clear to all of us that the appointing authority did not know her whereabouts and could not bring her down. Yet, she remains Minister of State. That, for me, is an insult that I still cannot fathom why we, as Ghanaians, are comfortably living with.
Cecilia Abinadapa, the last time I checked, was still acting.
I said, and you will agree with me, that in the beginning, it was clear to everybody that the appointing authority did all that it could, gave us all the timelines that she was coming back to work, and failed before someone was appointed to act. I mean, the impudence alone should attract an outright dismissal. And as to why the appointing authority, His Excellency the President, with all his government, the no-nonsense Nana Akufo-Addo that we're told he is, continue to tolerate and make us accept that, oh, someone is acting, no problem, someone is acting. It beats my mind that we are that tolerant as a people. It beats my mind. And that is why I think that if we can tolerate the president like that, who called Adwoa Safo to higher service, why should Parliament bother? Parliament will also be tolerated if it doesn't do anything. Because in the scheme of things, I mean, her role is to her constituents, and her constituents have not petitioned Parliament. They haven't. Maybe they are satisfied with whatever she's doing. So what has Parliament got to do, apart from maybe our standing orders and the laws? Really, in my view, personal view, I don't think we should bother ourselves with it. But on the argument...
So should we just leave her?
On the argument, let the constituents petition, and it is in the law. If the constituents think that they are not well represented, they can petition Parliament. And that is what even resulted in the disagreement between the minority chief whip and the speaker when this matter was referred to the Privileges Committee. Because clearly, in our standing audits, the speaker makes such referrals after a petition is presented by a member of the House. In this case, there's no such petition. And so, really and truly speaking, what are we dealing with?
Is this a test?
Then you have the majority leader make the claim or the point, supported by some senior, MPs on the side of the majority, that the matter must end at the Privileges Committee. When no matter referred to a committee has ever ended at the committee. No matter ever referred to a committee of Parliament has ever ended at the committee level. But on this matter, you have the majority leader trying to convince all of us that it should and can end at the committee.
So just to confirm,
I disagree with that also. My position there.
For me. Did you say earlier that Adwoa Safo's impudence
yes,
warrants an outright dismissal?
An outright dismissal, yes.
Okay.
Her impudence, I think, warrants an outright dismissal. But unfortunately, our president is lame duck. He can't act. Or perhaps maybe Adwoa Safo has something on him that
is not an
maybe
nice
because
thing to say, is it? To call him a lame duck.
It is a lame duck is not an insult. It's a political term that is used.
I didn't say it was an insult. I just said it's not a particularly nice thing to say.
So I am saying that for me, the majority leader's push for this matter to end at the committee level is something again that we must all resist. And
that is a Privileges Committee.
Exactly. No matter ever referred to a committee has ever ended at the committee level.
So you're one of those who say it must go to the Privileges Committee, come to plenary.
Come to plenary and let the plenary take a decision. In fact, when you look at our standing orders, under the Privileges Committee, it is stated categorically that when referrals are made to the Privileges Committee, they will report to the plenary.
Isn't it going to be problematic if it came there, especially looking at the numbers in Parliament? We might end up with another e-levy situation. Don't you think so?
How? Which is the e-levy situation that
I mean,
ended up with?
Where we know the requirement when it comes to numbers on such issues.
Right.
Do you think you can marshal numbers from your end, for example? Because even in your end, there are some who say, oh no, this is not a big deal. I mean, people have done it in the past. It's just now that the noose seems to be tightening around the necks of these three.
whatever we will have, whatever situation that will play out in the plenary is better than what will play out at the committee.
Why?
I tell you, clearly, in my view, the stage is set to exonerate by the numbers of the majority, Kennedy Agyapong and Henry Quartey, and to punish Adwoa Safo. And I'm saying that Parliament should not be seen to be cleaning.
Is that
That's how I see
happening?
It. That's what I'm saying.
They want to punish Adwoa Safo and let
in my view,
Henry Quartey
the executive,
have a,
in my view, the
field day.
executive led by His Excellency the President does not have his morning, TV, the balls to deal with Adwoa Safo. Forgive my French. The President doesn't have the balls to deal with Adwoa Safo, so he's doing it through Parliament. So, in my view, the stage is set for the two to be exonerated by the numbers that they have on the committee, and then Adwoa Safo be sanctioned and removed from Parliament, and perhaps by extension removed.
Just clarify for me, because I want to come back to Dr. Nyarko. Is this a test for Parliament? Is this a test of the efficacy, the effectiveness, and the possibility of Parliament to live above the border and say, we are parliamentarians, we are masters of our own rules, we still go by the rules, and if you fall foul of the rules, we are ready, even if you are one of us, to deal with you. Is it a test?
If it is a test, then it's a wrong question. The question should be that a petition is sent to Parliament by the constituents themselves. The petition referred to the Privileges Committee. The Privileges Committee determine, that, and report to Parliament to take a decision. That would be the appropriate question.
All right.
To use to test Parliament.
So let me come to you. Just try to make it a little brief, because I have to go via Zoom as well and interact.
Oh, no, it's
no, but go ahead. I'm just saying that.
So the first point I want to make is that the president is not lame duck. He is very effective. The president was the one who appointed Adwoa Safo. And if he so wills to relieve her of her portfolio, then he will do that.
We can do so.
And he should know that on October 6, 2021, Adwoa Safo had already applied for leave of absence. And that leave of absence was extended by the president. Okay, so as we speak, that leave of absence still holds. I don't know the details of the content surrounding what she sought from the president. But it's on record that Adwoa Safo is on leave. Okay, and the president can decide to fire her if he's convinced that it has to be done. And he is also saying that the target is Adwoa Safo. And I disagree with him. Because the petition or the referral to...
Why do you disagree with him? Yeah, especially when we look at the fact that when it comes to Kennedy Agyapong and Henry Quartey, people have not really, but it's always been Adwoa Safo.
The referral to the previous committee was not done by the majority. It was not suggested by the president. It was done by the Speaker of Parliament. Speaker of Parliament. And I remember in the House, in the House, Muntaka challenged it.
Show me when our standing orders. I can see you have it, where the Speaker can so motive.
No, I'm saying that Muntaka challenged the Speaker's decision, and he said he was going to come with a substantive motion to rescind it. Okay, so until that one is done, the referral, I supported Muntumi on this set with Roxanne. I held the position of Muntaka, okay? But you cannot sit here and try to impute wrong motives into the majority and the president. That is so unfair and wrong.
All right, so point made. Let's address the substantive issue.
If it turns out, because see, if you read our standing orders, Order 164, when the committee is done, the committee will have to make recommendations to the House.
Exactly.
Okay? So if it turns out that Adwoa Safo is exonerated, what will be your position again? So you don't have to jump the gun.
I'll be happy.
That is why you have to be very careful about what you say.
I can bet.
That is why I want to advise you. I want to advise you that, you see, you don't have to be jumping the gun.
Look, I'm saying that I will be happy to be wrong, but I can bet my last penny that I am not wrong. The intention of the majority is to use Parliament to clean the mess that the executive has failed to clean.
What you should know, and I'm sure you know, unless you are pretending, is that If you read Order 164,
Al-Hassan, are you pretending?
Yeah, if you read Order
I'm not a pretentious person.
If you read Order 164,
right.
The mere fact that you have absented yourself for 15 days doesn't automatically expel you from the House. That's why the committee is there. You need to offer explanations.
Right.
You have to do that. So it's possible that Adjoa Safo's explanation,
and even with the 15, it must have been without, getting the requisite permissions, because there are processes.
Yes. It is clear in orders. Order 16 and Article 97 1C, it is there. So Adjoa Safo, for all you know, has legitimate reason to offer the committee, and she can be exonerated. So let us be fair to the facts. Okay, his position is the same position that my good friend and Chief Whip on the other side, Muntaka, holds. And that is unfair. It amounts to what Kokubakon has been saying, premature ejaculation. We don't have to do that. Okay, let us give the committee the benefit of the doubt. You don't sit here, okay, and suggest that the committee. No, you don't sit here.
You stop all of us from raising the red flags until we are slapped by the flag, and then we are so shocked to react. That is your intention
of the members. You don't
that
do
is
that.
your plan. Right. You always say, "Oh, let's not do that. Let's not do that."
Some of your members,
then we are slapped with
the position of the majority. Okay, so you are a member of Parliament. We have committees. Special committees. You don't sit here and try to dent their integrity.
It is clear from the outings,
that's the discussion, and unparliamentary.
The focus is Adjoa Safo.
You don't do that. You don't do that. Give them a modicum of integrity and dignity and respect.
Why are you trying to bend them? Why are you trying to bend the rules? Why are you trying to bend the rules?
But the speaker was the one who made the referral.
No. Right. Then why are you saying that the Privileges Committee is seized with the authority?
I'm saying that,
to decide this matter on behalf of the
but they'll decide.
Why do you not want it to come to the plenary?
They'll make
because you have a majority.
Recommendations.
You have a casting vote
to the speaker, and then where?
Did you hear?
No, if you read it,
you are reading the correct thing, but that is not how the majority leader interpreted it.
No, if you read Order 164.
164.
For the sake.
So just to wrap on that briefly, let me bring in
of our revered viewers. Let me read Order 164 for us to appreciate what the previous committee has to do. Order 164 says, there shall be a committee of privileges which shall consist of the first deputy speaker as chairman and not more than 30 other members. It shall be the duty of the committee by order of the House to inquire into any complaint or contempt of Parliament or breach of privilege or any matter of privilege which may be referred to it, and to recommend to the House such action as the committee may consider appropriate. That's what it says.
Recommend.
Recommend to the House.
So if the recommendation can be accepted or rejected. Read two.
No,
read two.
That's what I read.
It shall
be recommended to the House.
Yes, it shall be the duty of the committee by order of the House to inquire into any matter or complaint.
And recommend to the House
of contempt of Parliament or breach of privilege or any matter, which is recommend, and then they recommend to the House, and the House will take a decision.
No, it's not there. The House decision is not there.
Hold on for me. But why are they recommending?
I get the House decide.
They would say they would have reported to the House. They would have used recommend. They would have said report to the House.
I wish
a report is different from recommend.
I wish I had a bell like in primary school. We are reasonable people in the House.
Hold on.
If a report is brought to us,
right,
and you read the report and you realize that there are issues, I don't think nothing bars you from raising an issue.
Break time, please. Hold on for me. Hold on. Nehemiah Atiga is principal lead at Odikro. A very good morning to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure you can tell there's fire on the mountain. Yes. Fire in the studio here. You've heard all the banter from Al-Hassan Suidi, member of Parliament, Tamale North, who has his position. He feels Sir Adjoa Safo is being singled out, and that the matter shouldn't be left at the Privileges Committee level. It should come to the plenary, and that is what their own guidelines say. Dr. Kingsley Nyako, member of Parliament for Kwadaso, disagrees. He feels it should end at the committee level. When you look at this situation in respect of the 3 MPs who are supposed to be hauled before the Privileges Committee, what is your take? Where do you lie on this bill?
Okay, so first of all, like we've said in the past, this is a welcome development because in the past you've seen MPs go in contravention of Article 97 Clause 1C and nothing has been done. And it would seem like nobody is willing to trigger the motion for them to be referred to the Privileges Committee. And as I was listening, I could hear Honorable Suhini talk about the fact that Adwoa Safo's constituents should be the ones petitioning or should be the ones moving for such a thing to happen. But I don't think it's stated anywhere in the Constitution that if an MP goes in contravention of that article of the Constitution, then you are waiting for their constituents to come in to make this petition or initiate this thing. And so in a situation where someone has petitioned the Speaker and there's a move towards referring these MPs to the Privileges Committee, I think that we should be happy that for the first time, this particular article is one way or the other being enforced. We shouldn't preempt how the committee is going to do their work. Let's give them the opportunity to do it. In fact, if this was made public or open, everyone would be happy because we would know the sort of questions that are asked and we know the sort of things that will be put on the table for everyone.
So you would have wished for it to have been open?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And so if we did that, maybe everybody would be clear on the sort of questions they asked and the sort of responses they got. And then when they submit their recommendations to the House, it will be based on the work that we all saw. And so there's nothing hidden under any pot. Everybody will see what has gone on. As compared to a situation where they have their meetings and then they probably take a certain decision or bring recommendations that may be skewed in a certain direction. And so if we see, if everybody wants this to be done properly and without any form of, should I say, acrimony, then we would hope that this is done in the open.
All right, we would want this to be done in the open. Do you agree that the buck should stop at the committee level, that they should decide and let it all end there?
Well, I think Parliament as an institution have always used an approach where committees would submit recommendations or a report on their work. And so the report or the recommendations is usually not the end of the road or the end of the process. I think once the report is submitted or recommendations are submitted, there's always some form of discussions around the issue. So if you say it should end at the committee, it means that you are changing the way the House has operated over the years. And so it's difficult to stand by that approach where you say it should end at the committee.
So you would say, you're saying fundamentally that would contravene the very standing orders by which they operate?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes, that is a yes.
Okay. So you're in support of, yes, they make the recommendations and the plenary should then, decide on the matter? Or how should it go from your end?
I mean, I think that if it comes back to the plenary, there's almost if we were to go by Honorable Suhini's submission, it almost look like a situation where people may decide that, let's say our colleagues, if our colleagues were going to be kicked out of Parliament, or let's kick out those that we don't like. I mean, it will almost seem like that. But you can't also start a precedence where now committees take a decision for Parliament and even for the nation. And so there's truly a need for that conversation at the plenary to take the final decision based on what the recommendations are, based on what the report is, as compared to just taking a decision and saying that these folks, yes, I mean, they are in contravention of the Constitution. The Constitution clearly says that they need to lose their seats for by-elections to take place. Do you want to use that approach, or want a situation where at least there's almost a second layer of discussions based on the recommendation? Because maybe the recommendation may state that Honorable Adwoa Safo had a legitimate reason to be away, and so all of them would then vote on the issue and say that, okay, we should consider what was permitted. And then maybe her reason is not legitimate, so all of them decide that, you know what, you can't be a member of the House and not make any effort towards representing your people, because then this limits our debate and decision-making process, and it makes us inefficient as a House when it comes to parliamentary business. So then you may then decide that, you know what, we are just going to allow you to go because you haven't served your people, you haven't represented them. So it just goes back to a point where they have to have that conversation around the report and the recommendation than anything else. We can't walk away from that.
All right. When you look at the three who are being hauled before Parliament, do you see any unfair charge towards Sarah Adwoa-Safo? The claim has been made that she is being singled out for this, that the two others being added, I mean, they are not catching any flack from the party, and that basically it's all a matter of Sarah Adwoa-Safo and ousting her. And again, I want to go back to that call. You started addressing it, but you didn't hit the nail on the head. When it comes to her constituents pushing for this and saying she is incapable, she is not serving us, and so we want her out. That has not happened. So can you look at those two angles for me?
Okay, so usually or ideally that's what should happen. But the truth is, how many of her constituents are actually following the data, are actually following what is going on in Parliament? We've had parliaments that are somewhat detached from, or MPs that are detached from their constituents. They do not engage with them. At the same time, the constituents don't take up the responsibility of actually following their MPs to see that their core mandate is being executed. And one of this critically being representation. So if they don't have the data, they can't be the ones to initiate this. If our next report that we are going to release very soon would show you that there are even more culprits than these three. And so, again, if you say the constituents should initiate, on what basis? Do they have the data? Are they following their MP in terms of how representative they've been in terms of attendance and things like that? And so how would they know whether your MP is in contravention of Article 97 Clause 1C? Because they do not have that information, they are not in a position of knowledge, and so they cannot initiate anything. Unfortunately, that is what has happened over a certain period. So again, we should ask ourselves, should it be a situation where we wait for constituents to initiate this, or if someone, we are all in a place, when someone breaks the law or the rules of our House, we should enforce the punitive measures or the processes that starts any form of punishment or any form of correction. That is what I think we should do, regardless whether your constituents have initiated or not. Once we are a house of rules, of our own rules, we should, which is also based on, by extension, the Constitution, we should initiate those, the decision or the processes to execute what the Constitution says or what the standing order says, rather than waiting for the constituents, because the constituents may share their responsibilities. At the same time, they may not be in a position of knowledge, and that may affect their efforts of ensuring that their MPs are accountable. Very few MPs carry out their core mandate, whether it's representation or whether it's engaging with their constituents, or whether it's actually making effort to do the work that happens at the committee level. You find a lot of MPs falling foul to this. And so for us, we believe that it's clear that your constituents cannot take this step. We need to use what the laws are. We as Odiko would be making efforts in providing the data and providing citizens with the information so that they can take up the mantle of ensuring that their MPs are representing them. But that's the extent to which we can go. And so I believe that if people examine what is available, they may be able to take an action. Meaning, we've seen in the past that when we provided data, people have decided that this person shouldn't go back to represent us because they haven't been in parliament enough, or they haven't spoken, and all the things that we've analyzed MPs on. And so clearly, we just need the data given to the citizens to take action. But if they do not take the action, I think that the House that has its own rules should apply the rules.
All right. My final bit to you on this, just hold for me after we're done. I'll bring them in and then maybe rope you in on some other matters with regard to Parliament. But is this a test for Parliament? Is this a hurdle that Parliament must pass or overcome or scale in order to show itself strong, effective, efficient moving forward? Because we've never seen, these have happened in the past, we've never seen them come to this point. Is this a hurdle that must be scaled?
It is a hurdle, and it is a good hurdle. It's a good hurdle because then you are starting a certain process that would deter others from falling foul, because they know that the law can bite. And so it's not business as usual. We are not treating each other with kid gloves. Once somebody petitions the Speaker or the House, the processes may commence. And that means that the simple thing of actually making sure that you are absent with permission would not be taken for granted. And so you would go through that process. And if you don't do so, you will lose your seat, or you'll be sent to the Privileges Committee. I think this is a good thing. You see, this Parliament that we have gives us an opportunity to reform a lot of things, and we shouldn't take it for granted. We should actually take advantage of the sort of Parliament we have to actually implement reforms and things that will actually move us forward, rather than the situation where we had business as usual because there was a certain status quo of a certain majority that always gave them the opportunity to take decisions in a certain way. Let's take advantage of this and continue using such situations as an opportunity to reform our Parliament, make our governance better.
I think I'll wrap with you, and that will be it. Just a final bit in about a minute. The minority leader is demanding an inquiry into the Achimota, and we're going into that issue now. The Achimota declassification situation, portions of the Achimota forest allegedly sold. And now we have a different situation where someone is even bequeathing land from the Achimota forest. What is your reaction to that?
I mean, I think that, again, a probe is in the right direction because it gives everybody the clarity on what the situation is. At this point, there are a lot of, should I say, statements going around. We've seen Honorable Janapo release a number of statements. We've seen an alleged will of Sir John, the late Sir John. And all of this seems like you say maybe they are not coming from credible sources, or you may say that, okay, this is credible. What truly is the case? And I think that what the minority leader is asking for is a step in the right direction. It would give the public the confidence, and will know the true situation on the ground. There's also the school of thought where public officers should declare assets, and I think that this is the time, again, to actually ensure that we do this, because all the people who are saying ABCD may not know what Sir John had before he became head of the forestry.
Yes, but there's a certain trajectory, some say from 2017 till his unfortunate demise, and what was acquired in, every 3 months, 5 months, and all of that. I mean, 3-bedroom facilities, 4-bedroom facilities within that period. It's mind-boggling.
Well, so if we could trail, somebody may say that, okay, what if people were gifting him those properties? What if he had children somewhere who were...
So there's once it's iffy, and that's where it comes in, that we ought to let people declare their assets so we can actually follow through on this.
Exactly. Okay. And again, this comes back to having political will to do this, because we all want to take advantage of the situation. Nobody is ensuring that this is done. But if we do this, it's a step in the right direction to fight corruption to a large extent, because then people who are trying to amass wealth, they're trying to grab properties, would go from that position to actually ensuring that they only stick to what may be there, unless they try to game the system. But that will also mean that it will become too much work, because then you are bequeathing things to family members and all, because if it's in your name, then it will go against what you have declared.
Okay. Nehemiah, I will have to leave it here, but I'm immensely grateful that you joined the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Atiga is principal lead at Odikro. All right.
Let me, if you permit me, with all humility, to just do what I hope will be some sort of education. Whilst doing it, I'll need to commend Nehemiah and his team for the work that they do at Odikro. So I can sense the excitement with which they may view what is currently happening, because they have been very concerned about absenteeism in Parliament. They have done a number of reports on absenteeism in Parliament, so they may be excited. But like I indicated earlier, the best test of Parliament will be to set the correct question and not the wrong question. He's right on the issue of the Constitution and what to do with members of Parliament who are absent. But our laws are set in such a way that they speak to each other. So you also have, I can't immediately recall the law that says that when constituents are unhappy with, their MPs, they can petition Parliament, to get them removed from Parliament. Now, Parliament also in its standing orders has under Order 76 how petitions are to come before Parliament and how those petitions are to be treated. 76.1 says every application to Parliament shall be in the form of a petition, and every petition must be presented by a member who shall be responsible for the observance of the rules contained in Appendix A to these orders. A petition not relating to a breach of the privileges of the House, and which according to the rules or usual practice of the House can be received, shall be brought to the table by the direction of the Speaker. So even constituents of Adwoa Safo can find any member of Parliament and route their petition through them. And that is why Muntaka challenged that the Speaker didn't have the authority. And I agree with Muntaka, but I keep an open mind, because listening to a Speaker also defend his action, I felt he was also somehow covered by the standard, or there's logic in it. But the practice over the years has been what Muntaka was saying, that the petition of this nature should have come through a member of Parliament before the Speaker. And if you look at 1642, it says that it shall be the duty of the committee by order of the House, not by order of the Speaker. It's by order of the House. So that is where I say I to some extent agree with Muntaka, but I keep an open mind, because Speaker's argument was also logic. And if you look at the whole...
Yeah, but the Speaker chairs the
exactly. If you look at even
the House.
If you look at even by order of the House is separate from the Speaker.
I get that, but I'm saying that that's why I didn't say that he is a member of the House. That's why I said that he chairs...
But majority of members of the House is order of the House. So that is why Muntaka said, look, you just... And the Speaker was also very smart in his response when he said that, look, it's a recommendation,
The Speaker is not a member of the House.
He was making a suggestion to the House, but he didn't even allow the House to take a decision on the suggestion he was making. But I also, to some extent, like I said, keep an open mind, because the whole standing order, we are told that the Speaker can even set it aside. He has the power to set it aside when we are dealing with things that are not covered by the standing order. So I think that Nehemiah and his group must be cautiously excited about this development. I think it must be done the right way, so that we test Parliament correctly and get Parliament to live up to its responsibility. But on the matter of the Achimota forest, if that is what you want us to comment on now, I think that our call should be supported by all. We have heard the back and forth. I have said that you cannot fault the minister for lack of effort, but unfortunately his efforts, at Abujinapo, his efforts at addressing this matter and bringing clarity to it further just, raises more questions than answers.
He says the lands, actually, you can't even bequeath those lands, that it is an impossibility, that no one can claim those lands in question. And I don't know whether you're addressing it from the Owu family's standpoint.
I'm addressing the whole issue. And I'm saying that we have had the back and forth. The minister has issued...
It doesn't give clarity?
It does not give any clarity at all. We do not, for example, still know if the 361 acres have been sold or are yet to be sold, or if some of it has been sold, for which reason some people can bequeath it to their nephews. We do not know. So we need to establish this commission to settle that matter. We are not, very convinced about how an allocation of 90 acres or more, came down or went up to 118 acres. And then, which was supposed to be...
part of that was under your tenure.
I'm not
at a point.
I'm just saying, let us have a commission to settle all these matters, because we do not know who is telling us the truth. Let us find out how the allocation under President Kufuor, was treated by President Mahama and President Mills, and which was supposed to be a settlement. By my understanding, dealing with my party people, 118 acres was to be the settlement. And how all of a sudden we are told a new settlement of 361 acres came about. How was it resurrected after the settlement in 2014? We need a commission to establish that. Then again, the law that is even used by the president is found to be a faulty one. The EI 144 is premised on a wrong law, a law that has been repealed by the Land Use and Spatial Planning, Act. It's been repealed. So, as we sit now, the EI 144 that is supposed to reclassify the forest is premised on a wrong law and should be treated as with no effect. It has really no effect. And that's why we need a commission of inquiry to come out with recommendations that we will all be satisfied with, that will serve to protect the forest. Because you see, the focus of this discussion, this whole back and forth, should be how to preserve the Achimota forest so that it will continue to serve us with all the ecological benefits that we derive from the forest. That should be our focus.
That should be the bottom line.
That should be the bottom line. I think a public commission of inquiry into the matter will determine the issues that are not clear and conclude with recommendations that we will ensure the protection of the Achimota.
So I get your point. Let's shed light on it so that we can look at whatever cobwebs are in there, and then
we take it out.
How do you feel about this whole situation about giving this out on compassionate grounds?
Well, you see, governance, I haven't really been in government for a very long time, but having come close to it, I can imagine some of the considerations that people in government have to make, in running the country, especially in this part of our world. In my view, I think that the problem started with the decision of, and I have said it repeatedly on other platforms, with the decision of the then government headed by President Kufuor to even entertain the request of the Owu family. Because I have said that
that was wrong?
That was completely wrong. I think it was dangerous, not just wrong. Because you see, all the forest reserves that we have in this country, there are about 282 of them. None have had compensation paid for by government. But you have landowners whose lands are used as forest reserve, the Shire Hills, the Ankasa, Molly, and others. There are landowners there. We take those lands and use them as reserves without paying them a penny. It is only the Achimota forest that you even have part of it being paid for by the colonial government. So when you entertain a request by family members to return, part of this land to them, you send a wrong signal to other landowners across the country. And you may give them the, encouragement to also begin to demand that parts of those forest reserves will return to them. So for me, the problem, began when we entertained the request of the Owu family. No government should have entertained the request of the Owu family. But once it was granted them, they kept raising the issue that you are being unfair to us by taking it away from us because it's been given to us by another government. It's been given to us by another government, so you are being unfair, taking it out from us. So I understand that what happened under the NDC was that what was granted was considered the core part of the forest. And because they kept raising the issue of unfairness on compassionate grounds, and because the government also was trying to maximize the utility of the forest by turning it into an eco park, they thought it was not going to hurt that much to give them the periphery, of the forest, and carried forward. And that was supposed to be a settlement. But that is, for me, the issue. It was supposed to be the end of the matter because the family signed to that agreement and actually registered the leases and subleases. So it was supposed to end the matter. It appears that matter does
not have a tail.
So how did it resurrect again such that they now have to get 361?
Which is why you're calling for the inquiry.
Exactly.
Just to wrap, because this is the final issue we're discussing, when he has his bite, we'll basically be drawing the curtains on the program on this bell. I'd like to find out, so zeroing in from the larger issue of the Owu family to the issue of Sir John, may his soul rest in peace. How do you find the dynamics? 3, different parcels of land, 2 whose acreages we know, 1 that we don't even know. And some have said that that could be the crown jewel in the sense that that could be very expansive, then we don't even know it. But interesting that when this Achimota saga comes, this one also sort of, is unearthed. Your reaction to that, and take it from the standpoint, people are now looking, very ordinary people, and saying, hey, inti sebi near kosono inti mochecheche, and the rest of us more checheche.
I saw a joke on Facebook that said that, well, this was just a man taking care of trees. And if he could acquire all of this, you can imagine the man taking care of oil or, the money of the state, what the person may be able to acquire. And that's on a lighter note. But I think that we need to revisit the issue of asset declaration. And for me, the issue
like Nehemiah was saying.
Yes. The issue is made worse when you have the fact that Sir John never even declared his assets when he was supposed to have done so. I mean, all public officers under 284, Article 284, I believe, are supposed to, declare their assets. This is 2864, I think, supposed to declare their assets. And if he didn't do that, and if you look at the dates, that these properties were acquired, and compared to his income as CEO of the Forestry Commission, you clearly cannot, miss the reason why people are calling for us to revisit the issue of asset declaration. And I think, again, under...
Would you be willing to declare your assets?
I do so every time. I mean, every time.
Since you've been in public service?
Public service.
You've always declared your assets?
I've always declared my assets.
Every year?
Not every year. I'm supposed to do it at the beginning of...
and at the end of
10, yes. So I think that we need to take a second look at that. And I think it's 2864. I'm not very sure.
All right, final point.
The Constitution.
Final point.
Where it talks about unexplained wealth. And we must look at it. And our, what do you call it? Investigative bodies, maybe they may not have to wait for the triggers to take this up, because some people have said that we should pass the law that will ensure, but it's already in our Constitution 2864, I think. It says that, let me just share with you, any property or assets acquired by a public officer after the initial declaration required by clause 1 of this article, and which is not reasonably attributable to income. So if you have declared your assets and it is determined that you have acquired some assets, that is not reasonably attributable to your income, gift, loan, inheritance, or any other reasonable source, shall be deemed to have been acquired in convention of this Constitution. So
in contravention.
Yes,
I think
yes, it is is it in contravention? Yes. Did I say?
Conventions.
Oh, contravention. Okay.
Of
this Constitution.
So it is very clear.
It is important that we set up a commission of inquiry. All these matters, I'm sure, will be determined before the commission of inquiry.
Dr. Nyako, so we actually have to let you know. He spent about 4+ minutes, but we actually have 3 minutes left. I don't know whether you can work within that.
More than that.
But no, that's not.
But you see, I think.
But I just want to quickly find out from you. Do you declare your assets? Have you declared your assets?
I'll be with my lawyer to look at it for me.
So the process is on?
Yeah.
All right.
Because it's important for us to do that. So for me, this whole issue, I agree with him that we need to look into the matter comprehensively. From 2007, there should be a proper inquiry into the issues surrounding the Owu family and the Achimota forest. And I also think that we need to also go back to 1921, 1927, 1930 to look into what happened there in terms of documentations. You know what I mean? Because we are told that the acquisition in 1921 was duly compensated. About £4,000 was paid. But what we are not sure is about the acquisition in 1927. Right. And I think that we need to
That's part of the major
archives.
problem.
We need to go into the archives because, for me, I'm surprised that 1921 it was paid in 1922, but 1927 it's not paid. It baffles me and beats my imagination. Let us go into it to ascertain the truth or otherwise.
But looking at the record keeping of our country, is that something that?
Oh, but if you could find the one in
1921 and 22,
why can't you find the other one
27.
in 1927?
Right.
So it's strange. We need to look. For me, any comprehensive investigation into it, for me, must be done. And the issue regarding...
So if you say that, then do you agree with them when they say there must be, this inquiry, like a thorough inquiry into it? I mean, then it feeds into what you're saying.
That's my position. I want it to be done so that, we get into the facts rightly.
All right.
To clear doubts on everybody's mind.
That point is made. When it comes to Sir John's issue, how do you react to it?
Sir John, for me, I'm waiting for the outcome of the investigation into, his estate. And when that one is done, then we all speak to it. For me, it is very worrying. Somebody who has worked for a very long time, being in public service, being in private service and all that, and that's, we have to be very careful about how we...
But we're looking, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we are looking at the window for when he adopted
I'm coming there.
that position
that is,
till his demise.
That is what I'm saying, that we need to go into it. Okay, whatever is impropriety in there must be dealt with. If the investigation shows that something untoward had been done regarding the acquisition of these properties, I think that the state should come in and confiscate those assets. I'm being careful. I want the outcome. If it is if it is illegitimately done, then we need to deal with it.
Okay.
And the state must
so basically,
get it back.
let's play the waiting game. Let's get the full facts. And
Yes, because I don't want to jump the gun. I want the outcome of the investigation, so that if we are convinced that A, B, C, D property are not properly acquired, they were illegally acquired, then the state goes in and makes sure that the right things are done.
All right.
That for me should be the mindset.
Gentlemen.
And political actors too must be political actors and public office holders must be very careful. We are in government not to amass wealth. We are in government to serve the people. We are in government to protect the state. We are in government to ensure that the well-being of the citizenry is well catered for. We're not in there to enrich ourselves. That attitude is so wrong. And that, if you're not careful, that fits into the narrative in the minds of the people. Let us lead by examples and do the right things so that all of us are not painted with the same brush.
Okay.
Now, the mindset is that all of us, are in this and we agree and all that. But it's not all of us. There are some people who are clean, who are decent, who think about the welfare of the
But the blanket is being thrown over all of them.
That is very, very unfair.
Dr. Kingsley Nyako is Member of Parliament for Kwada, so thank you so much, sir, for joining the conversation. Alhassan Sweeney, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, thank you for joining the conversation. That's how we draw the curtains on the big stories, but Yendi SHS is 50 years. We'll tell you more about this right after the break. Yes, thank you for joining us. And you'll wonder why I'm saying yes, maybe with one thumb and maybe even two. It's because we are talking about yes. Oh, you don't get it. Yendi Senior High School. Yes. They are 50 years, and joining us for the conversation, we have Dr. Fusheni Hudu, an old student of Yendi SHS, and as well as Hajia Azara Harun, old student of Yendi SHS. Doc, Madam, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
But I'm curious, why do you guys call yourselves royals?
Well, good morning to your viewers and yourselves, and thank you for being kind to us to give us this opportunity. Royals, because, you know, Yendi is the paramountcy of the Dagbon Kingdom. And the state of the school and its relationship to the paramountcy is so important that once you are admitted into the school, you see yourself as a royal and would have to leave it. So indeed, we are royals, and I think you can see from us that...
You do look royal.
Yes, and everything, our attitudes and whatever we do is about seeing to become leaders of development and change.
I should say I love your smocks and other materials though, that you've brought on the show this morning. Very representative of the northern region, the part your school.
And I believe that after this show, you will indeed know that we are royals because the school is a great one.
I think I know that already. But give me a bit of a history when it comes to Yendi Senior High School. Just briefly, 50 years and counting.
Yeah.
What has the school represented, not just for the Northern Belt, but nationally?
Thank you. Good morning to you and to your viewers. So Yendi Senior High School started in 1970. In that year, there were only 70 students, all male. The following year, there were 8 females admitted into the school. And the number of students in the school has been growing. So currently we have 3,545 students.
70 to 3,000
yes,
plus.
Yes. And that includes 1,900 males and 1,645 females. So the ratio between the gap is very minimal between males and females. And there are also 218 staff in the school. And since then, the school has produced distinguished personalities, 7 in different fields of endeavor, making great contributions to the development of Ghana. And so we are really proud about the school, and we think we have a lot to celebrate. Of course, there is a lot more to do. And as we celebrate, we reflect on our achievements, we think of the challenges, and we think of how to come together to address the challenges that we have. And, yeah.
So some historical antecedents, but I'm curious.
Yes.
I don't know whether you'd care to mention which year group you come from, and maybe the memories you have of the Yendi Senior High School.
So if the school started in 1970, I'm part of the 4th batch, which is 78-year group.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and the memories, really, I feel very nostalgic when I speak about the memories because we had the opportunity to have a headmaster who started this school, and he could think forward. And I must tell you that any student who passed through CBA Interview, who was a principal who started the school, and I was fortunate to be part of the 70th.
Oh, wow, he started the school?
Yes, he started the school. And you would imagine, he started it with nothing. I mean, we were not privy, the school was not privy to being part of the schools which were developed earlier for secondary education in Ghana, and for that matter, in the North. So he took it over as an old elementary school, you know, and he had to build it. He built the school, he built the resources around it, and particularly he gave us the discipline to live in life. And that is the nostalgia I take. There was nothing. We enjoyed every bit of it, even though you would look at it today as hardship, because we had to carry buckets to the pond to fetch water. We had to walk 5 miles to look sometimes for even firewood. We did, and then we just didn't even have the teachers, but we managed. And thank God.
Did you at any point help in maybe building some portions of the school or something like that? You know, back then, maybe you'd some communal labor or something.
Yes, we even
She was the GP. I wonder why she's not mentioning that.
Well, we even had to go to farm. We had piggeries, right? We had corn, maize fields, and what have you, to farm and feed the students.
Wow.
And we had time for that. We learned so much. I just don't know how CBA Interview did it, but it was possible. And today, we are very happy to be part, and indeed we are very happy to be royals, I should say.
And the experience, I mean, as she shares them, I mean, someone could even from there, after leaving school, going to animal husbandry and all of that, based on what he or she, I mean, life skills.
And let me tell you, a lot of us, obviously, you don't expect everyone to go into academia or to, you know, formal sector work, but for those who even remained in the informal sector, they are leaders.
Okay, we'll be talking about some of those standout personalities that, yes, the Yendi Senior High School has produced. But for you, what are your best memories from the school?
So I came nearly 20 years or so after she left.
1978 or 1998, thereabouts.
1995.
1995, okay.
Yes, I'm part of the 1995 year group. And I have a little bit of what we experienced a little bit of what she is talking about. We used to go to the farms. A little bit of the discipline she's talking about. We heard a lot about Tevyu because of the influence that he had. At our time, our headmaster was called Opusuma. And when it comes to discipline, he also did a lot. In fact, when we go to the school now, that is our biggest regret, that we don't see the level of discipline that existed then, which forced us to study. I mean, as young people, sometimes you need to be forced. Now, we appreciate it a lot. And that is what is missing now. So, of course, there were challenges, but the discipline ensured that Yendi Senior High School did a lot. I mean, it impacted a lot on us. And I think we still benefit from that, even now, as people in the wider society.
So the discipline, of course, it rings through. And now, yes, I guess all of us, when we go back and look at our schools, things have indeed changed. The times have changed, and things are not the same anymore, like Koda sang a song. But who are the standout personalities from Yendi Senior High School? Those people you see as your own luminaries on a national level and on the international level.
Nationally, we have people in all fields, in academia, in politics, in industry, economists, engineers, etc. So in politics, maybe one standout person is Dr. Abu Sakara Foster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
CPP, right?
Yeah, CPP. Yeah,
and of course, the late Idris Mustafa Ali.
Okay.
Mustafa Ali Idris.
All right.
He used to be the deputy foreign affairs
minister.
And then finally became the chairperson of Get Fund.
Okay.
Yeah, he also became the Northern Regional Minister.
Exactly. At a point.
You know.
Right. Right.
Then we have lawyer Larry Jagge, who is an outstanding lawyer. In fact, when I was driving here this morning, JoyNews was interviewing him on some aspect of insurance. He's actually a big man when it comes to insurance and law. And he helped us a lot to mobilize funds for this program. Dr. Ibrahim Anyas, the CEO of NAPCO, is also a royal. And we have, in academia, we have a lot. The current Vice Chancellor of Tamale Technical University is a royal. The current headmaster of Ghana Secondary School. In fact, the one who handed over to her was a royal. To him was a royal, Hajia Amina.
And the one who has taken over is also a royal.
Is also a royal.
Wow.
So
yeah,
we produce.
And indeed, we cannot mention royals who have made an impact without mentioning Wilberforce Saibo. I think he just took over everything about CBA Tevyu, and he has made an impact in education. He actually is on retirement now, but he's still working for us as royals and other things. And he was a headmaster, but he actually retired as the headmaster of Tamale Secondary School, which is another great school. You know, and
the Lions.
He is one of the reasons why some of us are here today, because he's done so much. So, Senior Wilberforce, if you are listening, we want to take this opportunity to tell you that you have actually gone, or you actually are a royal. Of course, in talking about who has made an impact or who has been great from the school, it is very difficult to just tell you that these are the names.
Of course, I totally understand. In fact, all of you who have passed through, I believe you are great in your own ways.
Exactly.
But always there will be some people who stand out.
Exactly.
I mean, if you've produced a Speaker of Parliament or something, like you say, you would say, oh, like he said, with the Vice Chancellor, and the headmasters and headmistresses.
Exactly.
So those are important points to make. Yeah. But what are some of the contributions the old students have made to the school? I'll throw that to both of you. I'll start with Doc.
Yeah, so the old students are doing a lot in terms of infrastructure.
Right.
We've contributed over the past 10, 15 years to addressing a lot of the infrastructural needs of the school, from the provision of water, boreholes, even marker boards, whiteboard markers, then classroom blocks. During this anniversary, or in the lead up to this anniversary, the old students have renovated many classroom blocks, dormitories, even the gate to the school was constructed for the first time in the lead up to this anniversary. But most importantly, the contribution that I value most is the visits, the talks, that we give to the students. 5 years ago, we had a homecoming, and we visited the school, gave them moral talks, encouraged them. You know, all students go there, they see them as role models. And we work with the administration, we interact a lot with the administration, the PTA, to ensure that, I mean, we bring back some of the discipline and the hard work that the school needs to succeed. Because ultimately, what we need is not the buildings or the infrastructure, but the quality of education, the success rates of graduates of the school. And that is what all students are doing a lot to address.
For you?
Yeah, so actually, he's mentioned quite a number. So going forward, we actually want to say that we want to do a lot more of, you know, developmental projects, like improving the infrastructure and all that. But I think what is important to us now is about relationships.
Okay.
Relationships, because if we build it well, we can be a whole force, and that is what we have just begun. But with regards to the students, our intention of building the relationships is to ensure that anyone who says he's a royal is indeed a leader who would actually lead for progress and development.
So there are standards.
Yes.
You say you're a royal, there must be something about you.
About you. So we need to brand, we are going to have to brand both the old students and the new students coming in the future.
So half a century and still counting. Yeah. I'm sure there are some challenges your alma mater is facing. What are some of them, and how are you helping to address them as old students?
So the challenges are implied in some of the activities we are doing. Obvious amongst them is deficit, infrastructural deficit. So the school, even though we've done a lot, renovate buildings, etc., there is still a lot to be done in terms of getting the buildings to standards, getting the rooms in a quality that students can feel a little more comfortable while they study. But maybe the biggest challenge is the quality of administration, how much effort the administration puts into the training, the discipline in the school. So we need cars. The school wants a pickup, and this is the time for us to say it. We need to renovate buildings. But more importantly, for me, actually, I am more interested in the pass rates, for instance, our performances in National Maths and Science Quiz, our, the quality of students that graduate from the school. How are they faring? And as we embark on the anniversary, this is going to be an important part of our conversation, so that post the celebration, we will all pool our energies and resources together to address these challenges.
So the challenges are clear, and I'm sure as we talk about the activities lined up for this celebration, you'll be seeking to address some of them. But what are some of the activities we can look forward to as you mark 50 years and counting?
Actually, it's been a great week this week. A lot has been done, but we are going to, I just want to run out the program. Where did I leave it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we started actually on the 23rd, which was on a Sunday, right?
Yeah.
With obviously you can't start anything without the mention of God. God has to take control. So we went to church in the school and actually prayed to God to start the anniversary successfully. So Sunday, we actually prayed, and those who couldn't go had to do it in their various churches and homes. But of course, we Muslims, we did it on Friday. So you'll see that as part of that. Then on, on the 24th, which was a Saturday, actually, I think it started with Saturday, right?
Yeah, so on Saturday,
yeah, so on Saturday there was a health walk.
Okay.
Before the church service. But then we also had a float on the 24th.
Okay.
Around Yendi town, because that was part of us. And then on the 25th, we had a cleanup exercise. On the 26th, we did career conference, so part of our challenges, and we want to, you know,
so that's actually slated for tomorrow.
And then there was another clean-up exercise and then a Muslim prayer on Friday, for which we all will be part, because I believe that after this program, we are heading towards Yendi for the celebration. You are welcome anyway.
Okay.
And then the grand day is on Saturday.
Okay.
Coming
Saturday.
Where I think your invite is coming from.
Okay.
We expect you. It's going to be a day that, but of course, on Friday.
If you can guarantee me some tuzafi and some guinea fowl, nicely grilled, I just might decide to.
Yes,
100% guarantee.
You know, I skipped something which for me I look forward to.
Which is?
The record dance for all students on Friday evening.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and before the grand day, we want to remember how things are. So it's going to be, the young persons may want the new style of doing things, but we want to go back to the old.
Okay, so final comments, and then we'll acknowledge some of your sponsors, some of those who are making this happen. But Dr. Hudu.
Yes, so just to add, on Saturday during the Grand Derby, the guest of honor, or the special guest of honor, is going to be His Excellency the Vice President.
Okay.
The Yana and chiefs and academics all over the country, all students and notable people will all be there. So it's going to be a really great day. And we all look forward to, it's also going to be a reunion. So we look forward to meeting people we've not met in a long time. And more importantly, engaging in constructive dialogue and discussion on what we can do for our alma mater. That is what we are looking for.
So let's quickly acknowledge some of those making this celebration possible, aiding you on this journey.
Right. It will be difficult to actually acknowledge everyone on this platform, but yes, our acknowledgement goes to the school administration, that is the headmaster and all the staff. We also would like to acknowledge all royals, particularly the planning and organizing committee. But what stands out is Senior Larry Jage has done so well for us in terms of finances. He's been able to mobilize more or less the insurance industry in Ghana to actually give us some support. And I would like to mention those I can. Any other insurance company who hasn't heard the name, I didn't do that deliberately. But Hollard, Vanguard Assurance, Danwell, NCA, and what have you, have made some huge contributions to us. And in fact, he himself has done so great by supporting us so much. Thank you, all stakeholders. Allah is your main person who would reward you. Your reward is with Allah. Thank you very much for everyone. And of course, Joy FM, you've done it all.
Right.
Thank you. And you are invited to our 50th anniversary.
Well, the multimedia group, we're always grateful to assist.
Great.
And thank you for coming.
We
wish you the very best.
Thank you.
As you mark this 50th milestone, Golden Jubilee.
Indeed.
Thank you. We thought you would show some of our pictures. Very nice beautiful pictures.
We actually did.
Of the work we're doing.
We actually did.
You did.
You were looking at me. So anyway, so right. Dr. Fusheni Hudu Hajia Azara Harun joined us for this discussion. 50 years of the Yendi Senior High School. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
Do stay with me though now. Right before we take our break, we do know water is life. It regulates your body temperature, keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect size for every occasion, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and your bags, and 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like me. We have also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. But here's what really makes it for me. Awake Purified Drinking Water is one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. That's cool, right? It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. And that's it for Awake. Now, did you know that the income of a young entrepreneur from some selected businesses is exempt from tax for 5 years? Any young entrepreneur engaged in manufacturing, information and communications technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism, and the creative arts, horticulture, and medicinal plants does not need to pay income tax on these activities for their first 5 years of operation. A young entrepreneur engaged in a business that enjoys an initial 5-year concession benefits from the following applicable tax rates for an additional 5 years. Ready? Accra and Tema, you enjoy 15%. Other regional capitals outside the three northern regions, you enjoy 12.5%. Outside the other regional capitals, you get 10%, and for the three northern regions, 5%. If you want further clarity or information, just reach out to your nearest GRA office. Ghana Revenue Authority, integrity, fairness, and service. After this break, it's time for you to have your say. We'll bring you the Citizen's microphone and take your comments on social media. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. This is where we give you the microphone to allow you to tell us what you think about the major matters we've been discussing. Let's go to the board, shall we? And so on the back of some of the conversations we've had earlier, this is what has come through. We have Royal Gabi in Efiakuma saying, Operation See Something, Say Something is a good initiative. I want to encourage Ghanaians to support it to expose the I'm sure you mean the terrorists to save our country. Kudos to the National Security Meeting. It goes on with some greetings. Unfortunately, we don't do that. Raymond says, is the MPP man, are you talking of Dr. Kingsley Nyako, talking about punishing those who pollute the environment? People are killed carelessly and the criminals are moving around without punishment. Under your watch, you say God is watching. All right. Musa Abattoir says, what happens to the promise, or what happened to the promise made by President Akufo-Addo about Accra being the cleanest city in Africa in 100 days in office? Did he say 100 days in office, though? Now they claim to have spent over 450 million Ghana cedis for solving flooding in the country. The perennial flooding has exposed them. I think that Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, and the MPP must apologize to a good Samaritan, Ibrahim Mahama, for attacking his integrity when he tried to address the Accra drainage system problem in 2014. All right. There's also Nana Piakubi who says, from Nkuranza South, he say, Ghana is safe and the able president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I'm not surprised he's the best president in Africa. All right. Abdul Rashid Ibrahim says, so it has not occurred to the all right. Let's not use those words. The Attorney General that the act on which they depended to come out with the EI has been repealed, and for that matter, the executive couldn't have used it. You're referencing 144. All right. Honorable Suini, okay, let's move on from there. This one says, don't doubt my man, Al Hassan Suini, my friend, tested and proven from Radio Gold. He knows and he has proof. All right, thanks for that. And this is Kaguta Joel, who is streaming live from Uganda. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from there. Maybe you could share with us how Uganda is faring in the midst of the global crises we are facing. This one says, Kingsley Nyako, you are a beneficiary to this undemocratic happening in the party by the leadership. Okay, all right. There are also others who connected live with us from Ho in the Volta region. Janet Agoku, one of them. See something, say something. Let's not politicize our country, I think you meant to say. All right, Komenza Pillar 2. Musa Nuru says, good morning and greetings. All right, those ones. We've been getting a lot of these messages. We don't do any campaigning for anybody on the show, unfortunately. Bawa says, watching you live from Kwara. So, you should have dropped a message for your Member of Parliament, Dr. Kingsley Nyako. It would have been interesting to find out what you think about the constituency he is Member of Parliament for. And there's also Jacob saying good morning to Honorable Suhini. All right, so those are some of the comments that have come through, but we'll be bringing you some other comments on other discussions we've had so far. But for now, let's zero in on the Electoral Commission. It's also been talking about following the law to check on basically these political parties in terms of their party offices and all of that per the Political Parties Act 2000, that is Act 574. Now, this act mandates them to have their accounting books audited and offices in 2/3 of the districts across the country. Do they have that? Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, made this revelation during an inspection tour of some registered political parties in the country.
And our district staff in the field currently. And over the next two, as you may be aware, the Commission has a team of directors and its staff, both regional staff and our district staff in the field currently. And over the next 2 weeks, we'll be undertaking inspections of the political party offices at the regional office and at the district offices. And at the national center as well. And so we, as a commission, felt that it would be important ourselves as commissioners to be part of these processes. And so for the first time in our history, commissioners are going out of their way to pay visits to the political parties' offices at the national level and at the regional levels as well. And so I think this is the first stop. The CPP is the first office. And over the course of the day, we'll be visiting the CPP and some other offices. But this is the first stop. And as I mentioned, we would also pay visits at the regional levels as well. But we felt that it's not ideal to sit in our head office and not go down into the field. There are many parties who have never had offices across the country and who continue to remain on the register. To date, we have 28 political parties on the register, and we have about 12 or so parties that have applied for licenses. And we know that the threshold for becoming a political party is very, very low. So we thought that, we are more than an election organizing, entity. Our role is to exercise oversight of the parties, and by this I'm referring to their financial accountability and responsibility as well. And then, of course, the inspection of the party. So it's not a witch hunt. And so where you find that you may have your leases have run out and so on, it's not something that the CPP...
Alrighty, so that is EC Chair Jean Mensah sharing those thoughts with us according to that act. Let's see what happens as far as the scrutiny of the political parties is concerned. Now, we'll be taking a few more messages from the dashboard, but we'll also encourage you to share your thoughts with us via the phone line. So you can call this number 0302-211-691 extension 2. 0302-211-691 extension 2. What do you think about the issues we've been discussing this morning, from the 3 going before the Privileges Committee of Parliament to the Achimota forest saga, both the Owu family and Sir John, and also this bit about the EC. But let's start from here while the calls come through. Abraham Kakari says, so you people won't give SAR a representation in Parliament, you will one day answer why you denied them their basic right. So Santro Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Likpe, SAR. Tido Klebe, Paul says, don't worry, by 2025, you will be in jail. You think we have forgotten, and as for the witness box, you must enter. I don't know who exactly you're referencing, but anyway. George Best says, oh, definitely not the English footballer. George Best says, we worked for 2020 elections. You never paid some of us till now, so you will come and call on us to work for you again. And that's the EC. Okay. Maxwell says, Ghana still looks the same despite elections. No development, and so no election in 2024. Well, it's part of our democratic practice, so we'll get there. I see a caller on. Just hold for me. Let me do this message. Jacob Herman says, is this EC still around? Hopefully. Okay, so that's not a fair comment. Let me just skip that. And get to Muntaka in Alajo, not too far away from us. Muntaka, good morning.
Good morning, boss. How are you?
I'm very well. How about you?
Good so.
All right.
You can't complain because the way the system is going in Ghana, if you're not careful. Have you realized in recent time that the brain drain is really taken off?
The what?
The brain drain. I mean...
Brain drain, okay.
Yes, technocrats leaving the country in their numbers. You know, to some extent that even some imams that we know, I'm a Muslim, so I'm speaking on, based on facts that I know, some imams have also left the country for greener pastures. Who are supposed to man the podium and tell us what God wants us to do and God doesn't want us to do. To train us morally and spiritually, are even leaving the country because of how difficult things are in these days. Coupled to the fact, unfortunately, that we have still not, as a country, tackled the drainage system in Ghana.
Right.
And it is still getting worse year in, year out. The first downpour this time, it was Saturday or Sunday, I was coming from Kaswa. The lorry I was in, the trotro, had to drop us all at around Malam Junction. And before we even dropped, since toll booth, we were driving only on one way. One full lane. That is the inn where we are coming from, Kaswa to Accra, had been overtaken by the rain, by the waters. So we were all diverted to use one lane in and out. And imagine that already existing traffic, in addition to this one that is coming up. It was hell. When we got to Malan Junction, the drivers all told us there was no way they were going to risk their cars. They couldn't take that risk. So we should all have to alight and walk all the way to Carnation. Carnation, not only to Carnation, and also where we are going, because trust me, Carnation was like a river. I wish I had your number. I would have personally sent you the videos I took there. But I had to turn into more like NADMO official to rescue about 3 people from the water. One was just behind before I realized the pressure, the wave, it's like a sea. It was pulling, it was pushing. If you wanted to even walk through the water and you're not careful, before you realize your entire system, your entire body had been taken down into it. So who do we blame? Sometimes I hear people blaming the politicians, the successive governments. I hear sometimes people also blaming the people throwing the rubbish in it. Have we ever had a checks and balances mechanism to check the construction of the contractors when they are given a contract?
Right.
Before the contract even gets to them, the 10% taking reduces the money to the extent they can't even do a quality work for us.
Point made, Muntaka. Very important, very pertinent concerns you're sharing. Let's move from Alajo to Bogoso. Fusaini joins us. Fusaini, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Please speak up. What are your thoughts?
What I want to say is that there is a saying that a tree is measured when it falls down. Now, the former this boss is no more. And now, what he hiding is coming out. So it's a lesson to the politicians. They always hide something that belongs to the nation. They always hide it. But that's in God. Whatever they will do, it will come out. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts there. You shared that on the back of the late Sir John's last testament. Interesting reading. John is an Ashaiman. John, good morning. Hello, John. Okay, it appears we've lost John on the line. 0302 211 691 extension 2. 0302 211 691 extension 2. It's at the bottom of your screen. Share your thoughts with us. Hello, John.
Hello.
Right, I can hear you now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead with your thoughts. It appears we've lost John. When John reconnects, we'll get to him. There's also this message that says, EC 2024 is just around the corner. We, the NDC people, will uproot. Okay. Some of these comments, not exactly the best. Okay, so let's get down. I think I got into a personal bit there. We'll take some more of your calls, God willing, and then we shall go back to some of those messages. But as you can see in your shot, more footage from the Achimota forest, and it's got a lot of tongues wagging, all these developments from the EI 144 to the OU family, from 91, acres to 360 plus, and all of that. But we have Yusuf in Kaswa. Hello, Yusuf. Good morning. Hello, Yusuf. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Please, I'm calling from the Volta region.
Oh, what's your name?
My name is Emmanuel.
All right, Emmanuel. Where in the Volta region are you calling from?
I'm calling from Sugakope.
All right. Go ahead with your thoughts.
My name is Emmanuel.
Please go ahead with your thoughts. Hello, Emmanuel.
Hello. Yeah. I can hear you.
Please go ahead with your thoughts. Don't use the TV. Listen to me on the phone and let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Please, what's happening is that concerning, how do you put it, the flood issues you're having in Ghana. I think it's time for us to really change our attitude towards certain lifestyle and kind of things we do in the country. It's all about laying blames on the government anytime the flood occurs in the rainy season. Thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And on that note, we'll get ready to sew it all up on the AM show. It's been interesting this morning having all of you join us for this conversation. Right before I go, let me just wish my very best once more to Samuel Kafui Avo Lanu, my own friend, brother. You're contesting for the SRC presidency at the Ghana School of Law. Wishing you the very best. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Do join me together with Bernice Abubedu Lansat tomorrow as we dig into the major stories making the headlines and beyond. Have a wonderful day. Don't you forget, JoyNews Desk is up at 10 and JoyNews today at noon. Have a good day.